2026 at 6 p.m. and we do have a quorum. If everyone would please stand for the invocation and pledge.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we come into your presence tonight, Lord, with thankful hearts. Lord, we just ask you that you would be with us tonight as we discuss the business of the school. Lord, we pray that you'd give us wisdom, Lord, that we may first of all represent the kids here. But Lord, we also may represent the ones who pay the taxes, the parents, the staff, Lord, that we may be fair and beneficial to all. Lord, we ask you to forgive us when we failed you. In Christ's name I ask. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We would like to welcome everyone here tonight. And nobody signed up? No. Okay. We'll go to item 5, canvass results of the May 2nd, 2026 school board election. I, Tasha Gore, the undersigned, the presiding officer of the canvassing authority for Venus ISD School Board bond election held on the 2nd day of May 2026, Johnson County, Texas, do hereby certify that the following is the total of all votes received by each candidate and votes received for and against each measure as shown by the precinct returns. I further certify that the following vote totals include early voting votes by precinct received under section 87.1231 of the Texas Election Code. Name of office or proposition, trustee place 6. Name of candidate, John Escarzaga. Total votes received, 93. Trustee place 6, Greg Hoffman. Total votes received, 194. Trustee place 7, Tasha Gore. Total votes received, 229. Go to item 6, budget workshop.
All right, President Gore, members of the board, good evening. Welcome to the second budget workshop. We're going to go and jump into the pretty close to what I'm looking at for our budget for next year. We are looking at a balanced budget. We are down about $246,000 from last year, comparing totals. I'm going to go line item by line item on our revenue, just kind of explain there's some ups, there's some downs, and it's kind of making up for that difference. On our property taxes, we're looking at about 5.6. I was pretty conservative with that. Just wanted to don't want to over project. I was conservative with that. On our home values, we're up about 3% over last year. I know I talked to Eric, and they were projecting about 5%, but we're up about 3% on our home value. So we are seeing about $150,000 jump on our property taxes. So that's adding to that deficit, not deficit, but the added value from last year projected number. Our tax for prior years and penalties, these are just based off historical collections that we get on our penalties and prior year collections. On our interest, we are projecting bigger interest this year. Nothing groundbreaking is happening, but I looked at what was projected for this year, and it simply just didn't match the math that I had on what we've received, and we've already met what was projected, and we still have 2 or 3 more months, not 2 or 3 more months, but 2 months of interest to go. So we are seeing a boost in interest as far as making up for some of that difference between last year's budget. Our miscellaneous revenue, this is going to be our pre-K, daycare, athletic revenue. Ms. Sampson, you'd asked about softball last time. Like, if softball has a tournament, that's where it's included in that total amount. It doesn't usually end up being a dollar for dollar going into the softball because the athletic revenue is about 35,000 and we allocate about 380, 390. So it does go to softball, but it's not necessarily a dollar for dollar amount just because we give them more than what they bring in. So just to kind of bring it back to that one. If we're looking at our foundation payments from TEA, the per capita and foundation, we are down on our foundation. We're looking probably about 120 down on the foundation. We are in the second year of the biennium, and so our per capita is up this year because we're in the second year of the biennium. So that is making a difference in this year with reduced students or reduced ADA going down. This is really kind of carrying us this year. We're up about 200,000 on that. So it'll be different next year once we go into the second biennium, but since we're in the second year of the biennium, this is really helping us not have a lower budget amount. TRS on behalf, that's an in and an out, so it is just what we're looking at for TRS projections to pay for next year. And then our federal revenue, that's going to be our SHARs, indirect costs that we collect on different grants. Any questions on the revenue side? Going over here, this is our by function instruction, different functions is what we're looking at. It is balanced. We're not really seeing much of a change across a lot of these functions. The only thing that might, once we settle into the final budget, there might be just a little up or down between the functions, but it's not going to be anything drastic. We're just making sure everything's in the proper place. But this is going to be the total by function expenditures that we're looking for, matching our revenue for next year.
So on the library,
Function 12?
yes.
Okay.
Is that all libraries?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just curious about just this library as far as, remember when we were talking last time
The
about
community library?
the community library?
Yeah. So that's going to be in community services.
But that 220, that's just payroll, right?
That's just payroll.
That's just- how many people is that?
That's gonna. I don't have the exact amount. I know that's gonna have our head librarian and any sort of aid that's coded to librarian.
So is the community service payroll, that's included down in that 239?
So
not
that
in the
would be
221?
That would
221.
be this is not included in this. The community services is separate from the function 12, which would be library for our students.
For our students
for our
during the
students,
school day?
yes. Mhm.
Okay, and then the 239, what else falls under community service?
It's going to be our daycare. Yeah, it's going to be our daycare and our community library.
Are you able to break out, and I didn't ask for this ahead of time, so if you
I can.
can you tell me how much is daycare and how much is library?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's about 200 for daycare. I would like to get you the number.
Okay.
But it's about 200 for daycare and then about 40 for community.
For the community library,
Mm.
per year?
And that's for all the stuff that we do during the summer and all of that, that's every year.
That
Just
is
the payroll?
yeah, just the payroll.
That's just the payroll
Mhm.
piece, yeah.
Yeah, and so this is including like reduced hours going into next year on community. Like I'll have a slide on that.
Okay,
the
I'll wait
community-
for you, I'll wait for
Yeah,
your slide,
So,
okay?
but
Sorry.
just giving you that number at least. That
Yeah.
so context. So, but yeah, about 40. The quick in my
Yeah,
head.
and I'm good with the quick.
Okay, yeah, about
yeah.
40,
Okay, perfect, thank you.
and then
Never mind. I'll wait.
Yeah.
Because I know you're gonna have a slide.
okay. There we go. Our interest in sinking. This is something that was done. I wasn't involved in this conversation. And so this is what we're projecting to take in from our property taxes with our 50 cents. We're looking at interest. This might go up or down depending on when our payment goes out, so I might have to recalculate that. And then we have our Asahi from the state. These two will probably just, one will go up, one will go down a little bit. But essentially, we're looking at about taking in this much revenue. We are looking at about 6.3 in interest and sinking payments next year. And so that's going to put us at a deficit right here. I've included our interest and sinking fund balance over the year so you can kind of see what was structured in this last bond, that there was extra money put into our interest and sinking account to compensate for these payments. And the concept behind that, or the idea behind that, is that as property values go, that deficit will grow, will become smaller as the years go on, as we get more growth and we have more property value growth, that this deficit will get smaller. But unfortunately, I have to present it as what we're expected to take in and what we have to pay. Now, I can point to, we're looking at about 8.2 million sitting in our fund balance right now for interest and sinking, where normally we end up, you know, prior to the bond, we're anywhere from 1.7 to 2.5. And so we do have a very healthy fund balance right now, anticipating that payment next year. But essentially it is, that deficit should get smaller as the years go on, as property value growth happens and we get more property people coming here.
So to make sure I'm clear, that deficit is going to come out of our fund balance?
That is correct.
Because we don't have enough coming in to cover that?
That is correct.
Okay.
And so that is the way it was structured as part of the new bond. This was for us to pass the 50-cent test with the state, with property values, the PVS study. And so Mr. Gatewood and I were not included in those discussions for the bond.
And that's also relevant to if we build something else that it affects the deficit negatively. Correct? Or am I wrong? Is it just one bond, or is that the bond payment?
It's all of our bond payments.
Okay,
that we have.
so if we have to build another elementary and we pass another bond, then that deficit's going to separate again.
You will not be able to build another elementary or anything.
Until we
because
get this
we're
download.
We're at the cap right now. We're at 50 cents. We can't go any higher than that because of state law.
So until we have enough money, we
And
can't
so,
do
yeah,
it.
until the property tax values go up enough that we can afford something, right now, we could not pass a bond. We couldn't even call a bond for anything
At the moment.
at the moment.
At the
But
moment.
as he says, as we grow,
There,
if we do put that money back into another bond, then you're gonna be in the same place you are now. Basically.
well, it depends on how you structure this. This was structured like
Yeah, I
this
know.
intentionally.
I know
so-
how we structure this one.
But if we structured it differently for the next one, it doesn't
Yeah.
always mean you're gonna have that deficit. Depends on how much property values go up. We deferred our property values, we deferred some of that to pay a deficit in hopes that the property values would go up and we'd recoup some of that, correct? In the
Mhm.
next few years. There's nothing we can do. This is presentation, there's nothing we can do about this right now.
Well, the
right?
problem is, Randall, for 30 years, we've been building, waiting on growth. I mean, it's not like the growth has ever overwhelmed us before we built something. And after this bond is done, we're going to be in the same shape when it comes to expanding that high school or anything else. I really can't foresee that changing unless there's something
Drastic.
miraculous
Yep,
happens
yep.
that none of us have foreseen in any of the, projections. So
We'll basically have a better idea of what this annual number looks like in about 2 to 3 years. And it's something we're going to keep track of. And if we don't pass the 50-cent test, there's a 45-cent. So there's ways to not manage this, but there's ways to make sure that we're good going into the future. We just track this number as the years go on.
Yes, and I did. I want to add, I also did talk to Eric Mancha, our finance advisor from Hilltops, extensively last week here, just to get a clear understanding where we're at. And I thought it was critical that Lanny does brief this here to you, because normally what you see in these budget workshops, just the M&O cover, but I also wanted him to cover the INS. It was based upon growth. Was based upon growth on our growth here. Hopefully the growth does come, like as predicted in our demographic reports, and that will make up for that particular fund balance, that imbalance that we have there at that particular time in our INS. But right now we do have the capability to make our payments, just something that we're going to aggressively monitor at all times to make sure we're on track to make those.
We do have some bonds that are paid off in 2029, don't we?
I'll
Somewhere.
verify that, but yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, we'll have an August payment and then a February payment. So it's structured in what these payments are. We know what these payments are. So giving a projection on what this looks like going into the future is very easy because there's 2 payments a year and we know what they are. And so we can, outside of interest, it's pretty relatively, we can see what this is going to look like because there's only 2 payments a year, August, February, and we know what those are. We have a schedule. And so figuring out and formulating a game plan that we can track and have, data to back it up, that is something that Mr. Gatewood and I are going to make sure we have in place to make sure.
I did send you guys the copy of this here, all the bills out being paid to 2055, which shows what payments we make every year. Mr. Russell, you are correct. We do have some bonds that will be paid up shortly, and that'll put us in better shape.
We hit next, Rosie. Oh, there we go. All right, so post district. I bumped it to about 100,000. I sat up here and told you it was going to be in Grapevine. Mr. Buck asked, "Are you sure?" I was like, "I saw it online," so I went back and looked. Then he's smiling. It was Kentucky at one point. It was Tennessee when I checked it at 5:30 today, and I called Brooke, and she said it might be Florida. So there's just no there.
Tennessee last year.
Yeah.
It won't be Tennessee again, but yeah, I was it's,
Yeah.
It could be Grapevine. I talked to her about it, and we think it may be Grapevine, but I just want to make sure before we make any firm budgetary plans, that's a big difference between budgeting for Florida as opposed to.
Oh, no, for sure. And the hard part is there's not concrete information that we can go on right now. We know the core groups. We don't know what the student population is. We have a good idea of what it may be if we have less kids. So over budgeting in this category, because it's going to sit until April of next year. So if we over budget and we don't have as many kids, that's we want to have kids be successful. That's what we want, but also we don't want to over put too much in there. So essentially, we know the core groups. We know the data that's going into it. What we're going to do is we're going to start planning at the beginning of the year, just getting a head count, seeing what it is. Athletic, post-districts, fairly easy to project because you know what the teams are, you know what the schedule is. A lot of the expenditures are localized to just driving to how many hours or minutes away from where we are at. These different groups, TSA, Taffy, there's airfare, hotels, check bags. There's just a lot of variables that are hard to project right now at this point when they don't even have their destination on their website. So we're going to start early next year, getting head counts. I'm going to be coordinating with campuses and departments if there's any sort of funding somewhere that we can help chip into that. I don't want to take money away from them, but at the end of the day, the core thing I'm trying to do is not having to utilize fund balance. We talked about interest being, a big chunk of our budget. When we dip into fund balance, this number goes down. It can go down with interest rates going up or down, but essentially, if we're dipping into fund balance, we don't get to count on that money for, our budgetary purposes. So my goal is to not have to utilize it, coordinating with department heads, campus heads, in whatever sort of way we can make sure that doesn't happen. But it will start early, giving you updates, whatever that may be. I want to keep you all informed, and also I want to know informed on the actual costs themselves. As far as our substitute category for this year, we are going to bump it at about $20,000. At the last workshop, you did ask for substitute data. I've included it in that packet. We are looking at there was a question about should we get floating aids to kind of help go with that. We are looking at about 14 sub-requests daily on instructional days across the district. It's still better to go with ESS because the daily rate for an instructional aid is about $144. That's on midpoint, and we pay ESS $110. And a little more if they have like a certification or master's degree, but essentially that's what we're looking at. It's still better to go with ESS. So we are going to be bumping that about $20,000 because as of April, we've already met the budgeted amount after we increased it for last year. We are going to be working with campuses to try to have some sort of checks and balances on people. You know, if you're sick, you're sick, but also, you know, communication of, hey, you know, our substitute, I'm going to be giving them data in our meetings of, we are looking at, you know, what's our burn rate? Are we anticipating going past this amount already? You know, we're like our burn rate is we've already met what we allocated for it in April. So giving them that number, that metric, that way they can communicate it to their campuses to try to help keep that number under control. Adaptive PE.
I'm sorry, can we go back just one slide? Can you share with me, because I'm looking at, what I really anticipated was that VHS was going to have probably the large majority, but I see VES that has not school business, which means that's what, teachers just using their days?
So not school business is going to be, I'm traveling on for a coaching thing, or I've got to go to this the professional development thing. Essentially, non-school business would be some sort of, I'm sick, I'm taking off to go, you know, whatever the reason is, it is, yeah, personal day. So whatever you would categorize as a personal day is essentially non-school business.
And do we track those days kind of historically, like year over year, to see if they're going up and down, or like,
So
because I know days, my brain in attendance doesn't translate to the way school does attendance. So, or is that like historically up or down, or is that pretty par for the course?
we don't, I don't know if people have tracked it by that category, but I've gotten the sub data and the frontline data, and it is easy to try to build, you know, categories. And same thing with the ESS, you know, just from a cost category, like, hey, we're burning through this, but also we can really very easily say, hey, our not school business, our personal days are really going at a rate that is higher than what we should be for, you know, the amount of days that we have. So it is, if there's not steps in place for it, I can help get the data to make sure, you know, HR manages the ESS contract, but we can get the data and build it and communicate it to the campuses to make sure that we are tracking that and acting on the data.
Gotcha. And then VMS and VHS. So I have not school business and school business, right? So the school business for the VMS is much higher than, much higher, it's 24 days, than VHS. Does middle school have more things that they're doing, right, for school business as opposed to the high school? Because I see the 96 coach days is much higher than the middle school coach days, but the school business days are higher than the high school. Do we know what the difference in the flip-flop in that is?
I can find that out. I just
I have to answer that. What you see, ma'am, is a lot of coaches that actually coach at the high school that take off for events. They're actually staff at the middle school. So that number's a bit inflated for the middle school.
So the coach days, so if they teach at the middle school, but they coach at the high school, where do those coach days factor in?
Those coach business days, being that staff member is assigned to the middle school, will come out of count on their days for them. Like, say, for instance, here, if I am the soccer coach, our soccer coach, Coach Cripp, I'm assigned as an FTE to the middle school. I take off to a soccer game. It'll show up on the middle school's days off as business.
So clarification, are the school business days including the coach days, or are they separate?
So that would be,
It's two different categories.
Okay, so just by that own admission, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Because if we have a middle school coach who's also out for middle, like if we're saying we have a coach day and an absence, right, I would expect that to be balanced. It's not. The coach days are flipped with the business days being off. Am I making sense?
You make sense, ma'am. I see what you're
So I'm just trying to understand like what the difference is. Like the coach days are much higher at the high school, but the business days are much lower.
How did we come up with coach days? Because that's not a choice in Skyward,
You are right, Mr. Buck. I will do some research. How do we come up with coach days? Because there is, when you go into Skyward, there is not a coach day. It's a school business day.
Is that coach days as in academic coaches, or is that coach days as in athletic coaches?
when I pulled this data, so maybe this will help. So I grabbed frontline data, I grabbed ESS data, and I grabbed if you were classified as a coach, because there is, not. I got our list of coaches and then gave those a value and then tried to make, because they don't run a report that says this is your coach. You just have them by employee. So I took our coach list and gave those a values and tried my best to build a report based on what Miss Sampson had asked for. So
So,
46 is something, a formula you tried to formulate.
Yes.
Your best guess. How many
Yeah,
coaches.
so
because they're a coach, you're
Yes, so
saying that's a coach day, so it could have been a school business. where-
because it was
Gotcha.
specifically
Okay.
asked for coaches in this data set. So there is some where I had to kind of build. There is no report for this. It was just tying 2 or 3 data sets together.
Yeah, my biggest goal to understand was why we went up so much in substitutes and like where are we expending most of our substitute time and money and what's the cost for that, right? So that's really what my goal to understand that was I mean, I really anticipated the high school being much higher in all categories because of athletics, right? Because it's ongoing all the time. They travel, they're gone multiple sports at a time. That's just what I'm just asking for clarification on why, like what the uptick in.
Well, if you were to combine though school business with coach days, high school would be higher, right? Yeah.
So are we saying out of 128 days, 46 of those are coach days?
Yes.
Okay, and so out of 104 school business, 96 of those are coach days.
Yes.
So the middle school still has more.
So okay, so now I'm confused. So the total absences for the middle school is 645,
Yes.
or is it whatever the math would be, 601? It's
should-
471 plus 128 plus 46.
Yeah. 47.
Okay, so there's
599 plus 46, 645. So all three of those columns are 645.
together.
Mhm.
Okay, so no, it's not what you're thinking. It's not 46 out of 128 is coach
471
days.
plus 128 plus
It's
46
all
is
total.
645.
So the high school would have more days off than the middle school. He took who he knows is a coach and just said, because this person put in the absence, it's more than likely they're coaching the reason they're not here versus a PD day.
Gotcha.
A lot. Go ahead.
How many school business days before we have next year?
0. No athletic days either.
I-
After 4.
Yeah, yeah, like that's really why I wanted broken down. I was just really trying to understand why we went up in sub cost and like where is that coming from? Like why do we go up in sub cost? Which campus is that really pulling? If we had one campus solely, right? Or it could just be equal across the board. And what's the cause for that rise in sub cost, right? Because I mean, I think we've said it a bunch of times. If we don't have teachers in classrooms teaching kids, it's not really what we're looking for. I mean, and they have their days. We want them to take their days as they see fit, but are we managing and monitoring that, and are we in excess of some of that?
Mr. Gatewood, I know we're going to get into it later when we get into the stipends for all the different things, but in my humble opinion, this is one of the jobs of our athletic director or assistant athletic director is monitoring. For instance, next year, our middle school is going to Bonham. They're going to have to leave at noon. Why schedule that game knowing you're going to have 9 people out having to leave a half a day? You know, there were many games this year that we got our coaches out at noon for a 7 o'clock game to go places. So I guess my question is, whose job is to oversee that? I would say ultimately the superintendent, because you're the superintendent. But I mean, there we have a full-time athletic director and undoubtedly an assistant athletic director and a boys coordinator. Who is monitoring that to make sure we're not? Because I can think of 2-3 different occasions just by listening to Ms. Buckwine where those coaches, all the coaches they're leaving midday or they're leaving. So I just wonder who monitors
So I think this is a question that we put on down at the bottom, additional
information.
asking for additional information, and we'll move on with our budget.
And actually, ma'am, I do have to answer to Mr. Buck's question. I sent you guys a packet a few weeks ago realigning the coaching duties because we did not have a full-time athletic director. Coach Gober was a athletic director, but he's also serving as the basketball coach, which inhibits him from monitoring all this here, which is why I've suggested that change, that he coaches tennis, which is a much lighter sport, so you can have a more hands-on approach in making sure subs are being tracked, what time people are leaving, make sure we're more efficient.
Adaptive PE, we had talked about this, and there was questions about what would it be if we were contracted, if we contracted out. So the stipend was for $3,000. It's about, this is through Joshua's EPCT contract, but it would be like $75 an hour, anywhere from 60 to 100 hours. So you're looking at about 4,500 to 7,500 if we would contract out adaptive PE versus offer a stipend for it.
In my memory, I think everybody agreed that it was a better situation than contracting it out. I think most of our questions were, how are you going to replace, if a person is given that stipend and is expected to do this, this, and this at all these other places, who's going to cover that person's job? They have an everyday job they're supposed to do for 8 hours a day at campus, whatever it is. If they're expected to get $3,000 to go to all these other campuses to do all these other jobs, who's going to cover their job when they leave that campus? That was I have no question it's cheaper than going contracted. If you make the high school PE teacher, if you give them that, then when they're not coaching high school PE, now you're going to pay an aide full time or whatever it is to go fill that spot. So who's going to cover for them while they're doing their job B?
Do you want to?
Good evening. I think the intent is to have the stipend there to solicit with the district an opportunity for, let's just say, if you have a coach that doesn't have a full-time teaching assignment or has some time in the schedule. So we all know that different coaches have different schedules. A lot of coaches serve in the special education department with inclusion. This would be something that would be a district determination that would not pull people off of their responsibilities. It would have to be reasonable. Do we have that person at this time? No. The intent is to have the stipend and therefore look at schedules, not intend to pull people off of their required responsibilities. This would be something to supplement possibly some part-time, or if you, as I say, if you have a coach that isn't assigned throughout the day with a full caseload, this would be a partial caseload for them. And I do not have a person in mind as to who would receive the stipend. That would be something determined by the district upper administration, working together with the coaches and athletic department to determine who that would be. So there isn't a person that we have in mind for this that we would pull off of their responsibilities. It is more to see if we had the opportunity, is there someone in the district that would be willing to go through the training to do that? If not, we would have this 4,500 to 7,500. It's probably more likely to go up because this is figuring in the actual evaluations, not the IEP consult or art attendance or working together with the paraprofessionals. So that could be in addition to. So this would be assigned to someone with a reasonable schedule and caseload.
Do we have anybody that doesn't teach, that just coaches and they don't teach?
Actually, man, we do have some people that do coach, and some of their teaching responsibility is monitoring a lab. Like, for instance, in C8, we have many kids that are on dual credit. The class was facilitated online through Tarleton or Hill College, and that individuals are sitting there watching kids.
So who will watch the kids if they're doing this, though?
that is something that I'm going to have to look at master schedules to determine if this year is approved. Can we make this year happen? Not guarantee you, Ms. Peters, say that there is a person out there. I haven't looked at the campus's master schedules, but that's going to be something that we have to coordinate with the campus principals to determine if there is someone available based on their master schedule.
An example that you could compare this stipend to would be like a stipend for a visual impairment teacher. Right now, we do not have a hired teacher of the visually impaired. However, our numbers have grown over the past year for students in this category. So we may be moving in that direction to require a full-time person. So we do not have someone employed, but we do have a stipend for a teacher of the visually impaired in the event that we need to hire someone for that position. Right now it's contracted because it has always been a partial load, but those numbers have grown significantly, and I don't want to pinpoint any particular situations for the matter of FERPA and protecting the rights of individuals, but that number has gone up significantly, and we are getting stretched in that area for serving those students. So this is the same concept. While it may not be tapped into at this time, it is available in the event that we have someone that is hired that could fulfill these responsibilities, if that makes sense.
Could I ask, I mean, you said you don't want to bring up individuals or so forth, but I'm hearing the word significantly.
Yes.
Now, is significantly 1 to 3, or is it 1 to 30?
So
What's significant?
So to me, 0 to 7 is pretty significant in the way, and I don't know that that's the exact number, but that's pretty significant in a district this size. So,
Well, right now we have 0 for APE. We have 0. And so my question is, who's going to do the evaluations to get it? Because you stated last time that the evaluations have not been done. So we've got to have to pay for the evaluation. So that's going to be, we're going to have to pay for those on top of this.
not if you have someone assigned in that area and they have the stipend and they have other minor responsibilities in the district. So that wouldn't be an additional cost. The additional cost would be if you contract and you're thinking about evaluations, the $4,500 to $7,500 may go up depending on the amount of consult that will be done.
So definitely in favor of the stipend in every way, personally. My biggest concern is principals are required to do master scheduling that is both academically and fiscally responsible. If we have a bunch of teachers who don't have full loads because we hired for coaches, there's a whole nother issue, friends, that I would like to discuss about a problem. Other than that, if your principals have properly scheduled every teacher, if they have teachers that are light, then you take somewhere else. So this one who's heavy is a little bit lighter. If we create that, I just want to make sure we're not creating a stipend and then calling a principal and telling them the second week of school, oh, by the way, we just got these 3 move-ins, we're taking so-and-so, because that's very common in other departments who don't understand master scheduling.
I think it's 2 different things, is my understanding. You're not over master scheduling, correct?
No, ma'am.
So it's almost an assumption that we have coaches that don't have anything to do, right? So really, master scheduling is something that you would.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I'll say this here. I try not to get down too into the weeds of the campus's master schedules, but I will say this here. There are people that are assigned to campuses that are not teachers of records that are sitting in other teachers' rooms. I will say that there without discussing it any further. I'm quite sure I could scrutinize a master schedule and find extra folks that are off that are not teachers of records.
Okay, so I think this is probably a conversation we should have another time. So we'll Greg, did you get your question answered? Because I think you were asking more about the visually impaired number.
Yes.
Okay, so you want to know how many is a big number without finding out the FERPA information? Is
Yes.
that 5, 10, 15?
So a district this size, if you had a district this size, what could be typical, a typical in any district this particular size would probably be 1 to 3 students. We are significantly above that, and so we
So
are
we have 10.
just under 10.
Okay, so we have just under 10. I don't think that gives out any FERPA information.
No,
Okay.
Again, I'm just trying to protect. So, but yes, somewhere, let's say somewhere between 6 and 10. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, numbers.
and that's pretty high
Numbers
for
are not
this.
giving out students'
Yes,
names.
yes.
I mean, numbers are numbers.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes,
it doesn't matter if it's 16
I
or
agree.
15, nobody would
I just
know.
have to watch myself so that I
Yeah,
don't stumble.
I just want numbers, so.
I can explain to you just very briefly about services of students for the visually impaired. You have
I think, I'm
Okay.
so sorry, I'm
No, no, no.
not trying to interrupt you, but
That's
I
okay.
think this is
Yeah.
really what we need to focus
Sure.
on right now.
Sure.
So did anybody have any other questions on this? Besides the ones we need to talk about regarding the master schedule?
And we can give more information when we do our special education presentation and give you an idea of what encompasses a teacher of the visually impaired. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Randall, did you have any other questions on this? No? Amber?
Thank you.
No?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's a question about our phone stipend. Good.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no.
No, this one, I'm already on the next slide with you.
Okay. It was who gets it. Is this number readily available? Anybody that falls underneath the managerial style of any of these campuses or departments has these numbers available. I would put my number on credit cards when I hand them out. I mean, not on the card, but on the little manila envelope. So if somebody's in a need to get in contact with somebody that is above them or has some sort of interaction with them, they do have the phone number available to them. On the athletic stipends, I did talk to Go.
I'm sorry, I was doing some math. On the phone stipend, is there a reason why we're not consistent in the dollar amount across the board?
It is a standard rate. It would be if somebody got it in the middle of the year. So there should be a standard rate for a phone stipend. If the number is off average or anything like that, it would be because somebody maybe received it a prorated amount. So
Okay.
there is a standard rate. Nobody gets a double or whatever, but it would just be a prorated
Yeah, I
amount.
just saw most of them were in the $600 range, and I saw 2 that were less than that, so I was just wanting clarification on that. Can you also help me understand, how do we arrive at the dollar amount that goes with this phone stipend?
That was a predetermined amount that was on the stipend list. It's been there for years.
HR director, we put in phone stipends.
It is,
Blackberries.
you know, if you divide that by the month, it is cheaper than a phone bill, and it is cheaper than what we'd have to pay for a cellular phone bill. But it's should be about $50 a month.
And quite honestly, we could give a phone stipend, and they might run up $1,000, but we could set a limit on our stipend. I mean, if we choose 500, it could be 500. If it costs them 1,000, they pay the other 500. But we're still compensating 500 of their $1,000 bill. See what I'm getting at? We can give a stipend. Doesn't have to be a total amount.
But
Right or wrong, Mr. Gatewood?
Stipends could be adjusted at any time during the budgetary process. That is totally the board's
And it can be
leisure.
random. It
That is,
doesn't necessarily have, unless we say we're paying 100% of your phone, we don't have to pay that. If we say we're paying $600 for a phone, then we're paying $600 for a phone. If they do some long distance or something and they run it up to 1,000, well, then they're going to pay the other 400.
That stipend was put in place because the current superintendent wanted everybody to be on call 24/7. If he called, you were supposed to answer. And that was.
No, I'm not against a certain phone stipend. I'm just stating the stipend does not have to be the amount of a bill. It just is what, it just,
That's not what she's asking. She's
Okay.
just asking, how did we come up with that
Oh.
$600 amount? That's what you're asking, correct, Kirby?
Correct.
it was random.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just didn't know, like, how often we looked
I mean,
at that, or,
And I mean, because
It was random.
to
It
me,
was
$50,
random.
like, because I did look at it, you know, 500 is $50 a month. That is about what a cellular bill would be. And for the district not having to have a contract with AT&T, you know, the $50 amount, it is, I haven't tried to recalculate it down to the penny, but to me, $50 a month to cover offset an employee cellular
That's how we
bill.
got there because the district bought everybody a phone, and that's what they paid for the group rate for the phone. And then it didn't work because you had to carry your own phone, the district BlackBerry and everything, and when they decided to get away from it, and they just divided it up and reinvested it came out to be $50 is what they paid roughly per phone.
But
If it matters.
If you toss in phone repair, phone
In
replace,
2008.
yeah.
I just want to understand this, because this is $12,000 that we're spending, which, and I don't, sir, do you have a phone?
I just asked this.
No, I
I'm
did
saying,
not. I
'cause-
did not receive a phone stipend, and I'm okay with not receiving it, ma'am.
I would almost say, you know, on-call 24/7. But I'm just looking at the cost, the $12,000 or so, if we're gonna get everybody up to 600 again, right? Are all of these people, available after hours, right? Is that what we're using it for? Does it logistically make sense for every single one of these people to have a phone stipend? Do we understand that they do, principals, I understand they probably get contacted all hours of the night if people are calling out, if they're at football games, right? Our primary principals, I understand that leadership. If we have people who are only here during the day and they're working during the day, but they don't take calls after hours or et cetera, does that really make sense to give them a phone stipend? Are they reachable by the work phone? Are these accessible? I mean, and I'll just say like C&I, I mean, food service. I mean, I'm just looking at some of these to say, have we looked at this list and really said, hey, do all of these phone stipends make sense?
At the campus level, yes. I can, you know, with a teacher trying to get in contact with them.
That was my original question. I don't
Yeah.
know, but that was my original question about are all these numbers available? Because the point is, when a parent calls, emails, something like that, and I'm at home and I get it, and I'm like, what? What are you talking about? That's a special ed question. I should be able to call Petersay and say, hey, just prepare for this tomorrow when we get to work. Just giving you the heads up, or give me a little background on this because I'm gonna have to deal with this first thing in the morning.
Well, availability and
But all these people don't have, well, I can't speak that to everybody, but question is, if you're getting a phone, then your number should be disseminated between all the other people who are getting a stipend. That way, that stuff could be, you know, Monday morning, if it's the weekend, Monday morning when I get to work and I wanna get started on this, I don't have to find out you took off work. Now I gotta call this parent back, go, it's gonna be 2 days before I get back with you now, and.
yeah, because I mean, having the number is the communication, right? Making sure that these numbers are accessible. But again, I'm looking at like after hours, how many are getting contacted by parents, right? I mean, I can see. Again, I don't think that's under our purview. I would just like for that to be kind of, again, it's $12,000 that we're kind of spending. Does that really make the best sense for us, right? If we're saying yes, large majority of the people on this list we're contacting, and I'm talking about outside of working hours. During working hours, I think most of them are accessible by a desk phone, right? I mean, I think a lot of them, the campus phone, desk phone, you know, but if they're at events or whatever, I do understand that. I'm just saying more often than not, does this make sense that we're paying $12,000 a year for this group of people?
You know, like C&I. I mean, what's a C&I emergency? Yeah.
I could agree.
And so, you know, there's been time, you know, communicate if something happens and we've got to get something out. You know, maybe somebody's not being, you know, Ronnie and I don't text a lot, but when there's a leak in front of the middle school, he texts me at 4:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
and I was up, and so we went. So some of it is just being available to problem solve during that hour time.
And maybe that's where we take a look at the dollar amount and say, we've contacted Ronnie 3 times. Does it really make sense to pay him $600? Do we scale that back and do a percentage of whatever? I don't know. I think that's just up to you guys, but I think that could probably be.
A big issue of mine is some of the stipends, and we're just gradually hitting them. Got a whole list. But the phones, honestly, change the system a little bit, you can cut that in half. and still give everybody a phone. I mean, my phone service, I get it through Walmart. I'll just say it upright. My wife and I, $30 a month. That's 2 phones, unlimited text, unlimited phone calls, unlimited internet, unlimited anything I want. $30, not $60 or $50 a month or $600 a year. $30 comes out to like $360 a year. You're almost cutting it in half just by changing the way you give service, or just give them the $300 so you got to get a phone and get off the business of the school having the phones.
Well, I don't.
I mean, we can change whatever we want, but we can save money. That list of $600,000 in stipends can be cut to $450 pretty quick. But we got to think about it.
I mean, it might be like a small budget because it's like $12,000, but
I agree with what Greg is saying. I think we can cut it, but if anybody up there needs to be reached, it is maintenance.
Yeah.
If that electricity goes off and there's a danger of the food spoiling, Ronnie needs to be here. If there's a water leak,
yeah.
if you take away everybody, Ronnie needs to have it.
I will second that. I probably talk to Ronnie probably 8 times a day after hours easily.
I can tell you as the high school principal, communications, finance, superintendent, Ronnie, definitely, probably sped, athletics. Those, I would probably say 3 days a week. You made phone calls as a principal to those people. POs aren't working, the credit card didn't work, your teacher has a credit card, teacher calls you, credit card's not working, you gotta call your finance person. Your superintendent, that's all day, every day. Communications, there are always things after hours that have to go out because things, whether it be weather or something like, I know we're beating that up, I'm not saying that there's some corrections there, but if you don't compensate in some way, if you buy them all a different device, now they gotta carry 2 devices. That's a whole nother problem.
Well, I mean, for my job, I'm supposed to be accessible anyways. I mean, I don't get a phone stipend, right? Like I do, I'm a salaried employee. Like if my manager needs to get a hold of me and I'm offline, then she texts me, whatever. I'm accessible in that, and I don't get an extra phone stipend.
Well,
So I
it may be a
understand.
hiring thing, and maybe times have changed.
You're right,
but
right, and I'm just.
There was a point where, I don't know if Ms. Gore remembers it, but there were people that said, don't call me after hours. It's my personal time. You're not paying me for after hours. I'm already at 3 events a week after school doing things. The weekends are my time. Don't call me. And that was just the district's decision making. I mean, it doesn't have to be this district's decision making, but back then that was, so.
I think my thing is I can look up there and really justify probably every person that probably at some point needs to be reached, whether it's every day 8 times or if it's 1 or 2 times a week. I think my thing would be the numbers need to be available for everybody. If we're paying for it and somebody is calling them for school business, if somebody's paycheck is wrong and it's a Friday and they need their check, well, they shouldn't have to wait till Monday. If the district made an error on their check, they should be able to get in touch with somebody on Saturday that can come up here and cut a check. So, no, that was just my example. So I think everybody might have, if IT, it's not a big deal until my computer doesn't work on Saturday and I'm trying to get something done, and then somebody better answer the phone, type of a thing. So I think it's really, for me, it's not so much a dollar amount because we have a lot of stipends that are like really high. I think it's just making sure that everybody can get in touch with people that's the reason we're paying you for the phone, is so people can get in touch with you. That's my thought.
Yes, ma'am. My philosophy as a superintendent, I don't bother people after hours. If I'm bothering you, it is an emergency. I think all the principals know that. Very rarely I'm going to contact them because I need an answer right now. I just make it a practice of mine to try to take care of my business during the daytime. If I have to communicate with them, if I'm communicating after hours, it's because I need that information.
Okay.
All right, so with athletic stipends, there was a question on junior high coach stipends amounts. And I did talk to Gober about this. He felt we were on pace with other local ISDs as far as the junior high coaches. A lot of the big, and especially when you factor in the 4 days versus the 5-day schools, a lot of the factor was there's typically only one game a week for junior high coaches. There's limited holiday games that they have to participate in, so they're not working over the break. And then also there's limited Friday requirements. Now, if you're football, there's film. You have to be participating on Fridays. But if you're not doing football, there's just limited time in which you are required to be outside of that. So that there was a question on were we fair on that, and Coach Gober himself mentioned he felt that we were very fair on what. Yeah, yeah, he said we even pay more than what local some people do, and we're 4 days, so depending on who it was. Community library.
Let him take a break and breathe. I'll jump in here for the community library. Good afternoon. The plan is to reduce hours due to funding limitations. City currently provides no operational funding, so why are we putting everything on there?
Well, they do. How much is it though?
Yeah.
Right now, the balance is us 70. Once you factor in the wages, the electricity, and the supplies, it's $70K to $1,000. I did email the mayor, and he did pass it to the city manager, and I'm meeting with the city manager next week. And after I sent that letter telling him we're going to be forced to cut hours if you cannot come to some kind of agreement, and the city manager did agree with me. It is no longer a shared community library. It is currently operating as a district library after hours. So they are going to work with me. I'm hoping not to cut these here hours. Just one of the things that I wanted to put to you guys that's on the table as a way to save money, save like $35,000, because we can no longer just absorb the whole cost of that. Because the city manager did agree. He said that is a municipality functions, not totally on the school because of the community. So I'm meeting with him next week to try to squeeze some money out the city, and they are agreeable. So just waiting to see what exact amount they're going to contribute.
So just so I'm clear, we are 70,000 a year, and they are 1,000 a year. Okay, just wanted to make sure I was clear on that. Okay, thanks.
So we would the from 28.5 operational hours per week to 18 will be the cut. School year, it will be open from Monday to Thursday from 4:30 to 7:30, and from Saturday from 10 to 1, and then we're closing Fridays and Sundays. And the summer, Monday to Thursday from 10 to 1, Saturday from 10 to 1, and then again closed on Saturdays and Sundays, Fridays and Sundays.
So I have a question. So during the school year, when all of our students have access to a library, maybe not the high school library, but if you're in the high school, you have access to that library. All of our campuses have a library.
Yes.
What is our need to be open Monday through Thursday, 4:30 to 7:30?
It's the community. That's the community.
It's, okay, but we're cutting back hours. I don't feel like $1,000 pays for however many weeks for 3 hours. 15 hours a week. I totally think the Saturday 10 to 1. That way, if our students want to come up, go to the library, I just don't know what the need would be for 4:30 to 7:30. If the community wants to come up, there's Saturday 10 to 1.
Well, hopefully, the city sees it differently and comes across, because it used to be, I don't know currently, used to be, what we held 2 days a week. We had ESL classes every afternoon, or 2 days a week in the library. We had different. We had not linguistics, ESL type. So GED was 2 days. On what I said, GED's 2 days a week. Then we had like a help you learn English course 1 day a week. So in the past, like I said, I don't know now, but in the past we used that library in that range right there for. Normally they didn't start till like 5:30 because most people work.
Which I think that is great for our community. However, all the city's paying is $1,000 a year.
So you're just saying if the city doesn't come across.
If the city
Why
doesn't
keep
come
those hours?
across, I think we need to maybe look at doing Saturday 10 to 1 during the school year, and then summer, you know, I know that allows our students to come up here and have access to a library, which I think is great. But I think if the city cannot help us or come even closer to where we are, 4:30 to 7:30, I don't know why we are paying when our students have access to a library during the day.
I would also like to see how many students visit.
And I would like to see how many come,
And that's what I was about to ask. Do
how
we
many
know
students visit, what community programs we're offering, how many people show up for those programs. Because this is just crazy. We're spending $70,000 and they're $1,000. Again, our community, yes, absolutely, but that's for the city to take care of.
Yes, ma'am, and I'll say this here. This is something that that Mrs. Roberts, our librarian, she's been fighting this fight since Mr. Hopper was superintendent, and we finally did make some headway again. Like I said, the city manager is willing to work with me, and I'm meeting with him next week because I just told him, say, look, we can no longer. I told the mayor we can no longer afford to just continue to fund this solely on our own because we're offering service that is outside of the K-12 scope, which is our mission. And like the Mr. Buck is saying over there, we still offer ESL classes and we'll still offer GED classes to the community. So we're doing a lot of community services. He does agree with that we are doing those services that should not be the sole responsibility of the district to do so.
And I do know Mansfield, if you live in Venus, Mansfield gives you a free library card. So that's another thing for the community. And I think if the city can't help us out, I think our community members, being outside of our school district students, they need to go talk to their city council and say, hey, we want this, help fund this. But
Well, you know, they also do summer programs and they do give cards.
I just have a
I
question
have a
about the
community
summer
card.
hours.
yeah, I just think
So
And
for-
I used it a lot more when my kids were younger
right.
than I do now. But, you know, you can rent movies or anything you want. It's a great deal, but I'm in agreement. These prices were set when Venus had gravel roads still.
And Blackberry.
And now, you know, they make a lot more money and they need to contribute a little bit to us on it.
Agree. Totally agree. What's your summer hour question?
I'm just wondering, like, summer hours, if we as a district, right, outside the community, but if we're doing things, because I know we do a lot of stuff like right in the middle of the day, but I don't think we have a large majority of I'm sure we do. We have parents who, you know, can come to things from 10 to 1. As a working mom, 10 to 1, I probably can't take my kid to the library from 10 to 1. During the school year, I understand that 4:30 to 7:30, right? My kids at school, they can go to the library, whatever. I love Saturday 10 to 1. I would even say during the summer, are those hours beneficial to us, 10 to 1? I don't think you're going to get a big participation at 10 to 1.
I will say that I attended 90% of the stuff this last summer, and they do have a big.
Yes, ma'am, because you don't work during the summer.
You're right. I don't work during the summer.
I
I'm off.
do. One full-time job.
The participation was, we had to go.
Yes, yeah, and we do have a good participation during the summer because it is a lot of the younger kids. They do have like the bubble thing, the animals that come up and all that. So yeah, they do have a good participation during the summer.
And I don't know what our the pre-K going in over here, I don't know if that's dead or if that's still, but literacy is one of our main goals, especially for our younger kids. And perhaps we need to maybe, instead of keeping those hours and putting in some type of literacy programs to help get those younger kids, those 4-year-old to 6-year-olds in a better place reading. That's the crutch of all of our problems. When they get up, it's not math, it's the fact they can't read the math, the paragraph that comes along with the math problem. So I want to support the summer program, because anything that's going to support that reading program to help our kids become more literate is, especially our population. I mean, you know, all of our kids struggle reading, but we have a large population that really struggles reading.
Is there a way also, maybe we asked this question, but is there a way on that Monday through Thursday, 4:30 to 7:30, to see how many people actually come in?
We would have to ask.
I'm just curious if we
Roberts for that
if we're
data,
just
yeah.
paying for people just to sit and nobody's even coming in. I don't know.
I know, ma'am. I've been there several times after hours. We do have people that do attend the activities in the afternoon, but we can't get you the exact number of the foot traffic that attends those programs. All these hours are flexible. These are just suggested hours. These are some suggestions. I am hoping that very hopeful that I'll give you an example. In the years past, I could just speak of being here as assistant superintendent. The previous superintendent, the city would not even meet with them. They just shut down the meeting right away, would not even have it, the former city manager. This time, he totally agreed with me 100% that they need to help support us and do better financially. I don't know what that is right now. I'll take anything more than $1,000 because $1,000, I don't know if that gets us pencils for the year.
Well, also want to be reasonable when, for them to quadruple it and give us $4,000, that doesn't. So I do want to say it's either I would say closer, get to that halfway mark, if not half. Yeah. I would say maybe if they came up just short. I'm just saying, but we're not talking about, okay, we'll quadruple it, we'll give you $4,000. That's not. We're talking about out of almost $100,000 we're spending on the library. Yeah. That's. So,
and I think we could probably look at some of our expenditures too, like you're talking about, like on our end, still our part of running the community library is that we do take a look at our expenditures and make sure that, again, the summer program just from 10 to 1, and I'm sure there's a calendar out there now that shows those activities, but if they're all right in the middle of the day versus having some summer evening activities, right? Like we know we have the possibility to stay open until 7:30, right? If we're doing like a movie day or in the middle of the day, again, I don't know what demographic I represent in our community, but I am a working mom who I could bring my kid to a 7:30 movie. I would love to do that. I can't bring him from a 10 to 1. On Saturday, yes, but if we're looking, right, like, I still think we could make that work for us a little bit better as far as the money that we're putting into it.
Gosh,
I just asked it.
for the sake of
whatever.
moving on, you think that we could just see what he can come up with on this deal and then readdress it?
That sounds great, Greg.
I just asked that whatever decision we make, we do it in enough time that gives, there are 3 employees that they depend on that money for, so that we would probably lose them. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't change anything. I'm just saying that's out of courtesy to pop this in August. And say, oh, by the way, we're cutting that.
We should know next week, right?
Yes, ma'am, next week.
Okay.
And the activities that the library probably already has planned. We don't want to take, like, if they put work into that, we want to make sure that.
Okay.
All right. We'll move on to some of the pay scale stipend changes. The first stipend, life skills aid, we're gonna change it to life skills / behavior aid. Position, the director of athletics, head football coach, we're gonna change it to director of athletics / coach, since he doesn't have to be a football coach to be athletic director, since he's changing sports as well. The stipend for elementary principal ESL, we're gonna change it to ESL supplemental. The stipend for VMS, VHS, ESL, change it to LPAC chair. The stipend for LSSP is changing from 5,000 to 10,000. Stipend for SLPA changing from 2,500 to 5,000. The stipend for SLP we changed from 5,000 to 10. A CP6 business specialist is being added, and the accountant position is being unfunded. Teacher scale, we're gonna add a line that says year 0 uncertified teacher with a bachelor's is gonna make $1 less than a regular teacher with a master's and a bachelor's. Librarian / nurse scale, SLPA being added to this scale as well. Any question?
Do we feel, I'm sorry, Randall.
I'm gonna play it on.
On the LSSP, SLPA, and SLP, are we having problems filling these positions? And so we feel like doubling the stipend is going to, you think we will find those people now versus, I guess we're contracting these roles?
Yes, we are currently contracting one SLPA, one school psychologist, and typically the SLPA position's not terribly hard to fill, but we have had some vacancies. Right now we have one contracted, one employee. I have been doing interviews, and the comparison to those in the area, to be competitive, we have people interested in the position, but that increase in those stipends would make the difference in getting someone employed versus someone being contracted. We have incurred so many costs with contracted services, because often you'll find what you could have hired someone with a stipend, a significant stipend. By the time we've paid out those contracted services, you could almost hire 2 people in that position, because when you contract it out, it adds up, and it is significantly higher than having the scale with the stipend.
So, what duties are they doing outside of their job description
A school
that gets the stipend? Like, what gets them that stipend that's different than what's in their job description?
That is a good question. The stipend is designed to be an incentive because it is a critical shortage area, and that's what a lot of the districts are doing in the area is, I believe
Subvent the pay scale.
that, yes, it helps the pay
No,
scale.
it didn't help it. It subvent
So-
it.
Yes.
Yeah, which I could say, and this is gonna sound directed, but math is a critical need area that affects every student in this district. And when we can't find math teachers, we tell our principals to get off their rear and go out and find them. And we tell them to go to job fairs, and we tell them to get on the ball and go. We get our HR director, but it just seems like every other department, when we need a business person, we need a PEMS person, we need this. It's like, oh, in order to get a really good person, we're going to have to pay them all this, and we just go do it. I want to be clear. Are they impossible to find? Therefore, we need to raise their pay $10,000, or are they hard to find, and it just makes it easier to find them? Because it would make it easier to find math teachers if we bumped their salary by $10,000 per math teacher. We wouldn't have any problem finding math teachers, because we would compete with, and to say we compete with all the other districts in the area, we don't get to do that with our teacher pay scale. It'd be easy to find teachers too if we upped our teacher pay to combat that of all the districts in the area. So I just want to be clear that I don't know why we do this for some things and we don't do it. Well, I know why, because we don't have the money. But math puts us on a list, and it's ultimately going to cost us money. I'm not sure we're at that point with LSSP. I'm not saying I'm against the stipend. I'm just saying I'm tired of hearing that. We set a salary scale. The board set a salary scale. If that salary scale is wrong, we need to revisit the salary scale, not continually subventing the salary scale by dumping an athletic stipend, an athletic stipend, an athletic stipend, an athletic stipend, and then all of a sudden you're making $15,000 more than your scale because we liked you, or because does that make sense? So if we need to change the scale, let's change the scale, not continually offer these stipends.
Well, and then I also have a question. So
Sorry, that was long.
no, you're good, because it kind of goes off the same thing. So the LSSP stipend, the SLPA, SLP, are those coming out of SPED budget, or are they coming out of just general? Right, but I mean, SPED has an option to use some of their funds for payroll, do they not?
So with SPED's budget, if some of these pass, it changes their core allocation budget because we don't have to contract it. One of the things that we're competing with is a lot of these LLSP, like we haven't had one since COVID on a psychologist. The hard part is this core group right here they can just make so much more money at a contracted service. And they know that, and there's established things for that. So they make a lot of money. On the SLPA, you're looking about $20,000 that if we contract it out, and then the LSSP, it's about $32,000.
Can I ask a quick question? Just to be clear, give me the words instead of the letters for once, so I can understand what these all are.
LSSP stands for Licensed Specialist in School Psychology. It's a school psychologist.
Okay.
And then SLP is Speech Language pathologist assistant. They're the ones that provide all the speech therapy.
Okay,
The SLP is a speech language pathologist. She is the one who does all the special education speech evaluations and supervises those who are providing the therapy.
thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Peters, I got a crazy question. Right now, we're contracting that out. Is that correct?
Yes, we're contracting an SLPA and LSSP. Our speech pathologist, we were very fortunate to have Ms. Holt, who's been with us. She was a retiree, working part-time with us in the district. She is retiring for good. And this is a very hard, very difficult position to fill, and we anticipate that. We have people that have been shown an interest, and with the comparison, when they look at the pay scale with that stipend, it gets them close to their current salaries. It doesn't necessarily surpass, but
What are we paying in contracted services?
you can pay anywhere on the LSSP. We have been
What are
What
we
are we-
currently
What are we currently
paying?
What is the factual amount of
the
recurring
factual. He has the factual amount.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just trying to see, like, for instance here, if we hired someone and we paid them a stipend, would it be less than what we're paying now for contracted services?
Absolutely, very significantly less. And like he said, we're competing with all those contractors. And I know, the math example was brought up, but people will choose if they know they can make more money contracting, and contracting services can up their prices because they know schools are in predicaments not having the staff. They charge a very high amount in hourly rate. A school psychologist can go anywhere from $82 an hour all the way up to $125 an hour.
So with the
current-
base salary plus this stipend, are they gonna be, your low number was just $82. Are we gonna have them at $82 an hour? Cause I can tell you, if I'm making $82 an hour, I'm not gonna come somewhere making 70 an hour.
Yeah, but when you're contracting, the contractor's making money too, not just the employee.
Correct.
True.
And that's why they are adding that high cost. It's the third party and the actual person providing the services.
It's not the money. Just change the pay scale. Just quit calling them stipends. Just up it by 7,000, up the LSSP pay range by $7,000. That's halfway between 5 and 10. So, then we get out of this whole stipend conversation, and the pay scale is, that anybody can look on the website and see that you're gonna get, if you're a brand new person, you're gonna get X, and if you're a 30-year vet, you're gonna get Y, and it's not, and that gets us out of this whole.
And I actually had this conversation with the superintendent today, saying, why are we calling these stipends? Why don't we just paying them?
There are some things, the benefits and things like that.
Well, there are some things that you add or something, but a lot of these stipends are jobs, and we're saying they're stipends. And I went through the stipend list. Since we're on stipends, I've noticed that we got people that we're paying math and science, which is important, but then we pay them for math/science.
Okay, well, let's get
The same stipend. So we need to go through the stipend list, not double pay for math and science.
There's gotta be a reason, Lana, why we're talking about stipends.
It's a question I got,
Why
and
we
that,
add to the salary.
I don't know if we're coming back to stipends, that's why I brought it up now.
Yeah, stipends are. here
There
in a
is,
little bit.
Okay.
if you're younger, if you have less
I'll save
experience,
my questions for stipends in a little bit.
let's say you have X amount of years on the lower end of the scale, you're going to be on the lower end of the scale. The stipend can help incentivize somebody, maybe not who's brand new, but it can help get them something that like maybe a 15-year pay scale would give. And then they come here, they're young, and they stay here for a while. You're trying to incentivize. It keeps us open to, yes, at the top of the pay scale, if you've been doing this for 20 years, you're going to get that top amount. By offering the stipend side, we do get the option of maybe they don't have 20 years of service, but we can offer this stipend, which helps compensate, gives them the years of service to help bring them here.
But couldn't you make your pay scale that same way?
Yes, we could. In
So basically, we're trying to get a way to make a first-year person get paid like a 15-year person.
not necessarily a first-year person.
Well, that was the example. You said
Yeah.
younger in their career.
It is.
Some of them actually look like they're on a 15 scale, so I was just repeating it.
Yeah, no, I understand. It is upping their pay scale is something. Either way, I think we need to have local talent for this. Let me say that. Whether it's upping the pay scale or doing it via stipend, we need to attract local talent. And the way we're currently doing it with our pay scale and the stipend is not working. If we can adjust their pay scale to somewhere, get in the range of where this is enticing for them, that ultimately that's what by bringing this to you, I'm trying to tackle. We need local talent for these positions. And the way it's currently done on the pay scale and the stipend amount, it's not working. We're having to contract it. So whether it's adjusting the pay scale and then in lieu of a stipend, we can do that. But that's my main goal, is making sure that we don't have to contract this out, because it's $20,000-$30,000 a position if we have to contract it. That's ultimately where I'm trying to go. How we split it out or do it out, I want to do it in the best way possible, but I'm trying to save money. It's ultimately where I'm coming from.
Okay, Lanny or Mr. Gatewood, whoever, what is the downside of raising the pay scale as opposed to the stipend?
I'll go ahead and take this here. Mr. Russell, I'm going to follow up that question. Are you mean raising the pay scale for these particular positions or for everyone?
For these particular positions. These are the positions that we're trying to attract. We don't have the money to raise for everybody.
I don't see a downside at all, as long as we stay within budget, sir.
But that also impacts our librarians and our nurses, because they're all on the same pay scale, so we would have to raise theirs also. It would also impact those employees on that pay scale.
If-
That's just SLPAs, right? And that's just, if we raise SLTAs, then that also raises librarians and nurses, because they're all on the same pay scale.
They're not right now, but they're wanting to,
Or we can categorize it in a different way to where it is on. Let me see.
Okay, that maybe answers part of my questions. By doing the incentive or the stipend, then you don't have to group that other group of people and give them raises also.
We're paying one person versus
That was a
raising
positive
everybody.
insight.
My understanding too, by using a stipend, the board has control with a stipend, whether to remove that stipend or continue with the stipend. If you have a pay scale and you up your pay scale is your pay scale, and you're not going to come back and retroactively change that. So my understanding why some districts go with the critical shortage, the critical need stipends, is because the board has the control. So if it no longer becomes a critical need or a shortage, then you have the capacity to remove that stipend.
Now, I got a question. Is it any reason why we cannot move the SLPA over to the same if we have the LSP over to the specialist? Right now it's on the same scale as the librarian if you look at the pay scale.
We can we can definitely rework it on the range that we're looking for to keep us competitive. Ultimately, that's what we're trying to get to, is just being competitive to attract talent to where we're not having to contract it. How it's presented, I want to present it in a way that makes it doesn't look like we're trying to do it lopsided.
I would be interested to see what Waxahachie pays their people. I'd be interested to see what Midlothian pays their people.
well, those are gonna be 6A schools.
I'm just saying, I'd be interested because this is the only school I've ever been in that we cannot find these positions. You may not find the one you want, but there's a difference between cannot find them and not find the one I want. So if we're bumping it up because we are trying to find the best of the best, that's great. But I could say that about every position in this district. We want the best of the best superintendent, assistant superintendent, finance person. We want them all. Sometimes though, you can't just bump everybody a $10,000 stipend because. So is it because they're not there at all, or is it just because? So I'm just there to see if they're paying $5,000 more than we are, then we're not in that $10,000 range. It's a question of, are we looking hard enough? Or is it advertising? I don't know what it is. If they're paying $20,000 more than us, then It very well may be. I don't know that answer because I'm not in that realm every day.
But a more fair comparison would be with Alvarado, not Waxahachie.
I will say this here, and I'd have to go back and look at those particular for that positions, but I will say, in preparation for this here board meeting, I did go back and I compared teacher and administrative pay for Venus ISD, Midlothian, Alvarado, and Maypearl, and also Mansfield. And with teachers, we're right where we need to be at.
Well, but these would be considered
These-
specialists in
these
all those
different.
other districts, so I can understand why they
Yeah.
would demand more. I'm just curious, are we within that $6,000-7,000? Because if we're within that $5,000-6,000 range of a 6A school, then $10,000 is gonna put us well in excess of.
So
What?
Waxahachie ISD, the speech language pathologist is on a 197 contract. Starting is 67, mid is 78, and max is 92.
And what is ours?
Well, we're on a zero, we're not on a mid point, we're on a step years of experience.
I mean, how do we compare with that?
You said
56 low, 81 high.
So we're higher on our,
Where the 56,000 is the lowest,
huh?
and 81,000 is the highest. we
What was
pay.
there, 67?
67.
So we're 10 grand below a 6A district?
And then here, this is.
67,
Here's
what was the
What do
specials.
we compare with Alvarado?
They just give a $2,500 special services.
16,000.
What is, and like I said, they're on a
Alvarado
197.
is 60?
Alvarado, from 65 to 75 is what they started.
And then stipend is 2,500.
And what position are we looking at?
That
That's
was,
it.
that was the speech language pathologist, and I have the school
Assistant?
psychologist. No, I don't have the SLA. I don't see that they have an SLA on there, or not on this pay scale.
So this is probably a question for you. If we have somebody brand new coming in, let me see, SLPA coming in, brand new, with no experience, they're gonna be zero.
Yeah. So that's gonna be the first amount you see on there.
56?
So 46 with a bachelor's, or do you have to have a master's to have that position?
This is teachers.
56,791.
Oh, hold on.
Right here.
Oh,
Way at the
50,
foot of the page.
5725 is what they would come in at.
5725.
Are you looking at SSP?
No, I was just looking at the SLPA. If they come in on the teacher scale,
Yeah, then it'll be.
or librarian nurse scale, I'm sorry,
Oh, wait, here.
they would come in at 50.
Yeah,
If we're talking about
5725.
SLPs, because we're looking at SLPAs, so
I was just
that's
thinking, Mr. Mayor,
SLPAs.
I was asked, we look at that.
Number one, we're on
and
176, Waxahachie's on a 192.
If your recommendation at the end of it
56.
Uh-huh.
is to do that, then I just say that, I know there's gonna be, it's
So
it's
do the
unique because
day.
we have to contract it if we don't get it.
Divide
But I'm just curious why all the
that
other
number by the
districts
days.
Oh, give them daily rate.
have them and we don't.
340.
So,
And that's fair enough, sir. Hey, I love it. Hey, I love this here. Give me some challenges here. I'll go out and find out exactly.
I mean, is Maypearl having a hard time keeping their LSSP?
What?
Is Italy,
Okay.
I mean, do we contract with the service center? Where does Itasca get their LSSP from?
Well,
They
and
get it
then,
from the co-op.
and then Midlow, theirs is a 10-month, and theirs starts at 55,460, and their mid is 66,810, and then their high is 78,170.
I just didn't know, do we have an option to get into co-op? Do we have an option of going,
And I'll say this here, and I'll go out and find those answers, but I will say this here. It's not apples to apples. You got to remember, if you're working in Midlothian, if you're working in Italy, if I'm working in Itasca, if I'm working in Maypearl, you have more contracted days. So, of course, the salary is going to be higher. So that you take that into account. And I do that all the time when I'm comparing teachers, administrators. I'm taking into account that we're working 20-something less days.
The difference is only like $23. So what we just did is we did Waxahachie and we did us. We're at 100, and when we say 170,
We were at they're at 343 daily.
because they work 197, we're at 170 something. So
No,
there's
We were at 320 something.
days.
Oh, yeah, but daily rate was 320 something.
320 was us daily rate. 343 is Waxahachie's daily rate, but Waxahachie is working 20 more days for $20 more per day.
I just asked, like I said, if your
That-
recommendation at the end of it is that, but I want apples to apples, are we?
competitive than we think.
It sounds like we're super competitive, so the question is, why can't we fill it and everyone else is filling it?
That's a great question. We're going to have to get out there and get after them. Like, for instance, here, I'll give you an example. We have had an aggressive hiring season. I'll just name, for instance, the elementary only has one spot vacant, and they have 4 interviewees tomorrow. It has been, you talk about the math positions, and we're getting those math positions filled left and right. I've sent you guys one today, I believe. So we're getting out there and we're finding people, and we're finding quality people. And I'm scrutinizing them, and I appreciate sometimes when I get feedback from board members. What about, I know Mr. Russell, he'll say, hey, this person here's jumped here and there, something I may have missed, because we have sometimes 10 balls in the air. But we're getting out there and getting after people. If I need to be more aggressive, I'll be more aggressive in the hiring. I just was at UTA. Second cousin graduated, walk around with a Venus shirt, and I interview someone there at UTA graduation. I'll go get you if I need to go recruit you. I'll find you.
Bilingual too. We have a lot of candidates with bilingual certified, which we have hired for the elementary.
Have there just been no applicants for these positions that we can't
There,
seem to fill?
there are applicants. We have had interviews, and when they compare their salaries, I'll give you an example. I interviewed someone last Friday, and that person, when you compare their current salary, even with a 10,000 stipend, with 20 years of experience, we are still about 2,800 short of what she's currently making. Now, those are less days, but for most people, they are not necessarily looking at how many days they're working, because as an assessment staff person, if you're a 4-day work week, I can guarantee you on that 5th day, on that Friday, you're still going to be working. You're
Same
going to
with
be,
our teachers, though.
yeah, but you're going to be, you're going to be writing reports.
Same
You're
with
going to
the
be
teachers.
doing shows.
So
Because
we
they
haven't-
were on Saturday
I mean,
work,
I
and
do
now
it-
they're doing that
I
Friday.
do it 6 and 7 days a week, and
So I'm assuming that somebody like that salary was that far off was probably a lot of years of experience, a lot
That was 20 years
So
where
are
we
we-
still undershot.
Are we
by
only
about two.
having 20-plus year applicants for these positions?
No.
I mean, have we had any, like, that are trying to get that experience somewhere?
SSP job, or they're-
Yes, we are currently visiting with a couple of new LSSPs.
I'm just saying, it would be great to have somebody with 40 years of experience that knows exactly what they're doing, but we can't afford.
And we're talking
40
about
years of experience.
$2,300 less annually, correct? Which is like $109 for the extra 21 days. It's like $109 a day is what they're losing out on. So $2,300 to work less than 21 days is the difference, right? So we're giving them the 21 days back versus making them work
Well,
those 21 days. So I feel like if we're having those conversations, we need to be marketing ourselves better. Like, coming from a recruiting background, like, I understand $2,300, like, but in the grand scheme of things, we need to be understanding what is their motivation, because if
Years of experience is
Waxahachie-
not the only quality.
well, and that, I mean, and we are competitive. I'm talking about minimum to 0 years, because if we hire a 0 year to a minimum, right, we can even go down to a little bit more. We're gonna be competitive, and we're also a 4-day, and they're working 21 days less. And we're talking about a 20-year employee, which is $2,300. That might be few and far between. I think we're splitting hairs.
So I think for this,
I mean,
Those are
I come from a recruiting background. Like, I know how to. I mean, that's what we have to do. You have to sell your company, because
so
it's not
I
always
think
about
for
money.
this,
Those are
I
some
think-
of the conversations that I have with potential candidates that want to come to but they're young, so they want to make money because the school loans, I'm just getting out, I'm gonna be on my own, I'm gonna go make 63 instead of the 50. So they'd rather go with the big money. But when you break it down to the number of the daily rate, it's when they see the difference. But at the end of the day, they want to see that paycheck, not.
So I think for this, I think you have some homework to do. So when we get back together and talk again, we'll have a little bit more information, and then we can maybe revisit these stipends.
Yes, ma'am. I'll reach
Did you
them
have
out.
another question, Randall, or are you good with that? No? Okay, okay. Thank you.
CP six is that's just changing a title. We're not hiring an accountant.
No, the accountant
just trying to-
position will be unfunded and then downshifting it to a business specialist.
Are we also absorbing the girls' coordinator position after Coach Rivas leaves? We're not refilling that stipend?
No, that's incorrect, ma'am. We are having a female coordinator with the new restrictions that we have. What we are doing, though, we're not having a boys coordinator. We're not having a boys coordinator. That's what's going on. Because when you look at the boys coordinator, you had an athletic director who Coach Gober slated to be the boys coordinator. To me, that's the assistant athletic director who was slated to be the boys coordinator. To me, that's the same stipend, same job. So that makes no sense to fill that position for a stipend, pay that stipend for that.
Right, well, basically, he took the athletic director position instead of the boys coordinator, right? Because he wasn't getting paid both. The athletic director was just renamed or whatever to the boys coordinator. So with the girls coordinator, with the new stipulations, is that girls coordinator going to be at every single sporting event or whatever that's required with that new stipulation? Because that girls coordinator is going to have to go. If they don't have a female coach, then that girls coordinator is going to have to go.
I will say this here, ma'am. If you notice the application I've sent you, we have more female coaches than we've ever had this year, which I'm very pleased to have that.
So if we have those girls coaches and they're filling every sport, then we don't need the coordinator.
And that's something I can go back and revisit with Coach Gober because we
Okay.
haven't went over stipends with her, the new hire. We haven't went over stipends with that
Have we
coach.
promised that stipend to somebody already?
No, we have not, sir.
Yeah.
Anybody that we've hired, we've promised. We
I'd
said
rather you
there's-
just say, hey, we've already offered that.
No.
We're stuck with it for another year. I can
Yeah,
look at it better.
I would like to see what is our female coach applicant pool, and then at the end of the day, if we need to fill that because of the regulations, okay, and we're gonna make that coach travel to everything for that makes sense to me. But if we were able to have a female coach in every sport, then we save ourselves $4,000.
Since we're talking about stipends and we're talking about new people with the stipends, new coaches, one thing I did tell Coach Gober, I said, tell them stipends. Don't tell them the exact stipend amount they're getting because I do have some things I would like to suggest to the board. We can no longer continue to stack stipends where we have individuals getting 7 stipends. That's kind of unheard of that we're doing that here. Now we have people that are grandfathered in. That's something we have to deal with. But as we bring new people in, we do need to adjust that. And those are conversations I did have with Coach Gober.
And have we gone through the stipend list? I'm so sorry. Where we had an assistant coach was making more than the head coach of a certain sport, right? So, and I understand that was last year. Are we recorrecting that for this year to put that back in line with? Like I don't know how we got there, but because if we hire a new head coach, and I'm talking about cross country specifically, if we hire a new cross country coach, and they take the stipend that the coach took last year, their assistant coach is going to take more than they did. Does that make sense? The assistant coach made more than the head coach last year.
Well, they may have made more because they drive there's one person that makes more than the principal of his campus. But it's because he has a coaching stipend, another stipend, he drives a bus.
I'm talking about just one sport, like
Just a
this-
stipend alone, he's making more?
Just this one sport.
Oh, okay.
Say it again?
The assistant coach's stipend.
And the head is making 4.
That's the list.
Yes,
Give an athletic stipend? They just gave him, they flipped the stipends around?
yes. It is actually on here.
Unless that is our clerical error and it is incorrect on the spreadsheet.
So here it's the
But-
cross country is 5,000. Yeah.
If we're grandfather claused in, I just,
Not a grandfather clause.
well, we had one particular person who got a stipend for being this. He got a stipend for being assistant athletic director, and he got a stipend for being boys coordinator.
No. It appeared that way, but it was.
Okay. I just say,
It was
if
one line
that's
item.
grandfathered in and they're gonna continue to get those, then those job responsibilities need to go up to where they're earning their money.
Are we on the stipends right now?
I'm going to go back to what Mrs. Sampson said.
Yeah, we tried to flip the page. I just had more questions.
Do you have a stipend presentation?
Was that it?
We're going through the key stipends we had last. I presented a lot of the stipends by line item last time, and then I hit on the ones that were the ones that we.
So if we have questions about specific stipends, we need to bring them up now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, just wanted to make sure, 'cause
Yeah.
I didn't wanna mess up your presentation.
Oh, no. If you have specific ones, yes, now's the time so we can bring for approval.
Yes, I know you got
And-
that white handkerchief ready to go.
Oh, no.
I just want to, I just
wanna
want to
do
make
it right.
sure within that stipend schedule, we've given it, because it's going to be hard to go through every stipend to every person and I just want to make sure that if we're stacking stipends, that we're not, that there's job responsibilities go with each stipend. If I'm the head this, and also get department chair, and also get, get another, but they're all three the exact same job, we just stacked stipends together to get them more money. Again, that's another situation of raise the pay scale or raise the, you know,
I have one thing, like, we have one that has like the band director, the department chair, and the fine arts chair, or whatever that is. I mean, it's public record, so, I mean, it's one of those
Yeah.
where it's like, I'm just trying to understand, like, how that makes sense, right? If it's band, right, and then we have fine arts, then we have department, that's kind of monopoly on that whole,
How is that not the same thing?
I
All
mean,
three, right?
yeah.
I mean,
That's how I read it. So, I mean, it's just like little nuances like that.
We have people in certain leadership positions that get, not leadership as in principals, but like coaching, they get stipends. They are making more than the principal of their campus. The principal of their campus is expected to do duty at 4 events a week for no stipend. So not only are these coaches getting more money, but they're also doing less duties than, and I hate that's off the rail of stipends a little bit, but I just, that's what's hard to explain when.
Well, what we need is job descriptions
Well,
for
we
the
asked for that.
stipends.
Yeah.
But also,
asked
I
for-
did notice that we do have all of our principals getting rather large stipends. So I don't know what
Grants.
those.
Grant funded.
Okay, so it's grant funded. They're still getting very big stipends. What are those for? Same thing.
They came along with a,
Whatever would be the administrative duties of managing or implementing the grant
And once that grant is
plan
Once
at
that grant
campus.
is completely exhausted, do we then absorb that cost and we continue that?
$15,000 pay cut.
It's gone.
So, but there's two separate pieces. There was two grants. There's a 10 and a 5. And they're both grant funded?
Yes, ma'am. You're talking about there was actually 3 grants. You're talking about the Strong School Foundation grant. You're talking about the School Action Fund grant, which is the SAF, and you were talking about the Principal Intern grant. So it's actually 3 grants. And to go back to answer Ms. Sampson's question, I don't know why the head cross-country coach was receiving $6,000 for cross-country, because in the board-approved stipend, it is $5,000. It is not 6. I don't know why that coach was getting 6. It is 5.
It's a rabbit hole you can go down. Like if you just start pulling out like, and I don't want to take money out of people's pockets, right? Like I know that, but I want to be fair and consistent, and I want to set a precedent going forward, because if we keep doing what we're doing, we're just gonna be kind of caught in it. And I mean, we can just say that, hey, it worked to your favor, and going forward, these are the expectations, because we've got to be financially responsible. We're fixing to build a new school. We're fixing to have to staff that school, and so there's just some hard decisions that we're gonna have to make, whatever that looks like. And we got to course correct some of these where it's just, we can recognize that it's gotten significantly out of hand in some spaces, right? Because we just have really specific questions on.
And I'll say this here, stipends is one of those things you have to watch. Again, that particular position should never been authorized $6,000, because the board did not approve $6,000. The board approved $5,000. I don't know how it got to 6.
I mean, if we're breaking board policy, because the board policy was set on the salary scale and the stipend scale, if we've broken board policy, that's a fireable offense. Who gets held accountable? I'm not saying at this time anybody listen, I don't want you to think I'm going after anybody, but at some point, somebody has to be responsible for that. Somebody has to be responsible for viewing the stipend schedule and knowing that that we're within the range that we ought to be. He's brand new interim. You're brand new, but I'm tired of doing that over and over again. It was Hopper, and he was brand new, and then there was something, and we blamed everything on before, and then it's Torres, and he was brand new, and he still claimed that when he left. This is only my second full year, I'm still trying to get everything under here. And then you come in, and well, this is under somebody else, but it doesn't change the taxpayers and the money that we're expending on the mistakes that we're making.
I will say this, Mr. Buck, I hate to use this here, Mr. Buck, the buck stops with me. Okay, because here's the deal. I think I've probably spent more time than any superintendent going through these here stipends, knowing exactly what is the board approved stipend list, and that stipend, I believe in extreme ownership. So I'm going to take ownership for it, even though I did not approve that young man's contract for that. Trust me, we're going to go through this here list.
My statement more is, I get it, but that's a board policy. That's not something we just grandfather in and say, hey, I get you been getting 3 stipends stacked, but you've been getting this, we're gonna let you have it until you leave.
We can't do that.
We can't do that because it's a violation of board policy. What you can do is rewrite his job description and give him additional duties on top of that. That's why.
What you do is you correct it now that it's been found, and you correct it. It's not, because if we're just gonna now just pencil whip it and add more duties, then we're just doing the same thing people did before us.
Tasha,
We just corrected.
Ms. President, could I make a recommendation, please?
Yes.
I've got pages of stuff on this. I can narrow it down quickly. Could we address the president to speak and you give us the floor so that we don't sit here with our light on all night listening to other people talk, trying to butt in?
You have the floor.
Thank you. If we can do that, it'd make it easier for everybody. And I'll try to make this quick. There's what I've noticed on the stipend list. There's one big thing I noticed. We got approximately, give or take, $600,000 in stipends, which is a large part of our payroll, if you actually think about it. And states requiring us to do ESL. There's one. $25,000 for all the ESL elementary teachers right now, out of 600,000. The first page, if you look at the stipend list, we're not going to bring names out, but if you look at the very first page of the whole stipend list, it comes out to a grand total of about $125,000 of 600,000, and that's only a handful of names here, and none of them are ESL. I don't think any of them are special ed.
Yeah, there are.
Okay, a couple maybe. And I think we need to start, as a board, if we're looking at a educational system that right now is low and it needs to improve, we need to start putting our stipends where our mouths are. I mean, we spend $1 million on $2 million, or however many $1 million on a football field, which has some soccer winning. We don't win a football game. But those kids have got to go to work. And they're going to have to win some education games. So putting in the whole list of things here, because there's so many errors in it, that we need to start addressing directly what is important to us as a board. And maybe perhaps next year when we do the budget, we need to have the team of 8 hearing about our goals and stuff before we set the budget, so that we actually know where we're heading. I mean, we have some, these are stipends for $1,666.68 as a stipend on this paper. Boy, we're getting specific on our stipends now.
That would
right
be
down to 68 cents.
That would be a prorated average amount.
Okay.
If it's down to that.
Well, but why is it as a stipend? Why isn't it just as a one-time payment? It's coming out as an odd stipend. I mean, you know, if anybody else takes that job, they're going to think, well, I get $1,666.68 stipend.
In order to compile this stipend data list, I had to pull data and match employee numbers and summarize and make a table out of it. So if there's an odd amount.
That answers that one and another one just like it. But we also have an employee here that has math/science, science/math.
That one's been highlighted. We identified that one. It's been flagged in yellow.
Have we corrected it? It's still on the list.
Well, this list was given to us before.
Okay, so it's all corrected.
It's been flagged.
Where's the new one?
It's been flagged to be corrected for next year. That's an individual person that got paid.
Yeah,
Same
it
stipend
is one
twice.
person.
But I don't think they
So-
got paid twice. I think he clarified that for us.
But when Randall starts talking law, we're not supposed to double pay people. We made people pay back. We have made people pay back when they were overpaid.
Oh, yeah.
We had to vote on it and do it. It was hard. But if we're double paying people, we need to correct these things.
Was that a double
And
payment?
these all sound like small things. See, I'm just
The
gonna
math,
end
science,
it
science,
real
math.
quick.
The
They
way-
all sound like small things, but you start adding them up, it gets to be thousands and thousands.
Science, math.
It's the way it's worded. If we want to correct it, we have to correct the word math, take the slash off and put or. That's how we correct that one.
But do we have somebody
Yes,
getting it twice?
because they teach math and science.
And so they're teaching it half the time and getting a full stipend.
They're teaching both.
I know that, but you teach one, you get a stipend. You teach the other one, you get a stipend. Full stipend, even if it's just half the classes.
And it goes back to the way we
And
have it
that-
worded
that-
here.
You're making another point I was gonna make, is I look at these stipends and it looks like we're overlapping tons of stuff. Just like that one, you got the same teacher, it's got, say, I'll make it up, 6 classes. 3 of them are math, 3 of them are science. That should be one stipend. Just like a math teacher that teaches 6 classes or a science teacher that 6 classes. Why are we double paying for the same hours? Get what I'm saying? That was another one. You can bring them up. I'm trying to make it short since you gave me the floor, because I got pages and stuff like this. I mean, we have screwed this stipend up so bad. I think that Mr. Gateway's going to spend 2 years trying to fix it.
Well, I think the stipend was a good theory when we weren't competitive with pay. I think now that we're back at the competitive pay part, I think that's where we can course correct with some stipends, but I think stipends really deserves its own overhaul because, you know.
I mean, do you not agree that if you're teaching 6 science classes or 6 math classes, is the same as teaching 3 of each?
So he has some suggestions, but Randall, did you have a question?
Yeah, I don't know who this is, but if they've agreed to teach math as a high need area and science as a high need area, that's why we're offering stipends that area. If they agreed to teach math and science, what separates them from getting those both stipends? It may be a quirk, but
It's not
if
even
it was,
policy.
if it was a need area and a teacher came in and said, hey, I happen to be math and science certified, which is an anomaly in itself, and I'm willing to teach math and science, is it $3,000 worth it for the best interest of our kids to do that? I would say if that was running rampant and we were doing that on a lot of people, I would definitely agree with you, Greg. But if it's only one person in the district that has agreed to do that, and that's not something we could change it naturally if y'all thought it necessary. But I don't know the person, so I don't know if they're getting double paid and they're teaching, like they just did it to get money. Like if somebody just slid it in there just to get them an extra $3,000, that's.
I've got that many pages of those kind of mistakes.
But I think that's a Mr.
and
Gatewood
double
thing that he
pay.
needs to investigate that and figure out.
There's
Let's
$600,000.
Okay, let's let Mr. Gatewood tell us what he's gonna
So
do
it's
to
not
fix
just
this.
one teacher, it's scenarios over and over, different scenarios.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, and I'm just going to just speak from my heart here. This is what happens here. Number one, what's wrong with that situation? There's nothing wrong with it if it's brought to the board and it's approved. Right now, the board does not have a science math stipend. They have a math science stipend. I think what gets us in trouble, no, sir, it just says math/science. That's what it says. I think what gets us in trouble, and I know what gets us in trouble, like any organization, this type of things don't happen overnight. You got to let go here, let that slide over there, let this here occur over there, and eventually you have this type of thing that's going on, and that's what occurred. You get the $6,000 instead of the $5,000, and all those things do start to add up, and over time, I do have some suggestions that I would like to bring to the board. And it's not an all or one. It could just be, hey, we can do either or. Number one, you could cap stipends. A lot of districts, they cap stipends. They don't allow people to do 7, 8 things, get 7, 8 stipends, because what happens there, you wind up with some, you have an equity issue. You have teachers that want that stipend. So wait a second, all the favorite teachers are getting the stipends, and I never had an opportunity to get the stipends. So there's ways to do that. You could cap stipends. That's one way to do it. You could go ahead and biggest thing here, you can standardize the department leader stipends. Like right now, we have these secondary department leaders doing the same job, getting $1,000 more than the elementary and the primary. So there's some inequity there. So what I would suggest is I go back and I do an administrative review on all these here particular stipends and take a look at who's getting what stipends. Number one, make sure it's in line with the board has approved. If the board has approved this amount, that's the amount of the stipend. I, as a superintendent, not authorized. I want Lanny here working as an employee. You know what? I'm gonna sneak in some ways to get him $5,000 more to give him some money. I'm not authorized to do that. So that's the number one thing. Let me go back and do an administrative review of these here particular stipends. And it is my job. You guys have set the policy. It is my job to go and unwind this here. If you're outside the policy, I'm going to have a conversation with you. Like, hey, you are outside the policy. This is the policy. I am obligated to stick to that policy. The board has decided you get $5,000, but you're getting $6,000. You make a decision. If you make a decision to, of course, nobody's going to be happy losing $1,000. Just using that as an example. But those are tough conversations that I got to have with individuals there. And those are the number one thing. I got to do a review and get us all back in line. Then from there, we can go ahead and as we bring in new employees, like we're bringing in new coaches here. Another thing, as we're bringing in new coaches, don't give them new coaches 7 stipends. And I've talked to Coach Gober on this here. Let's limit the amount of coaching things that they're coaching. We're trying to stick to giving them 2 stipends. That's what we're trying to. There's some that's going to have to get 3. But if we're giving those 3, a lot of districts do something called a 3-cap rule, which is your highest stipend you get at 100%. The next highest you get at 50%. And the next one you get at 25%. That is how most districts do those things when you have people doing multiple things. Or you could just give them all 3 stipends. But my recommendation is do not allow anyone to, as we're bringing people in, now it's too late to, we have people getting 6, 7 stipends right now. I think you have to just wind that down slowly as individuals are, for instance, coach leaves, they're getting 7 stipends, new coach come in, they get 3. You unwind that way. You can't unwind it right now. It's a little bit difficult to unwind that, and it's unfair to the employee. But number one, I got to get us back in line with what the board has approved. That's the number one thing. And we do have new coaches that are coming in, and I've already had that conversation with Coach Gober. Promise them stipends. Do not promise them the amount of stipends they're getting. Okay?
Madam President, I would just say, if you're expecting me to coach 3 sports, I want my full stipend for 3 sports. But what I said before about a job description that goes along with every stipend, there's a very distinct difference between assistant football and the stipend for it, assistant basketball, getting a stipend for it, and assistant baseball. That's a full year's worth of work. I should get all 3 full stipends, as opposed to those stipends where your oversight and Gober's oversight or the principal's oversight that says we're getting 3 stipends that are stacked on each other strictly for the purpose of getting me more money. So I just think that I hate to put that 25-cent rule in, because now you're asking somebody to coach a 3rd sport we may need them to because they're best fit for it, and you're asking them to coach it for $1,000. That's a full baseball season for $1,000 because that happens to be the 25% rule. So I think better would just be the oversight of the people looking at their stipends, your principals and your athletic directors, and saying, here's a job description that goes with this stipend. Are you getting the full amount of money out of your stipend, or did I give you this stipend for, like that teacher? Is he or she teaching 2 full subjects and giving up their conference period to do math and science, or do we slide them an extra stipend, one math class, just to slide them an extra $3,000? I don't want the answer. I'm just saying there's 2 different ways of looking at that. If they're helping us out, give them the full. If you slid them money somehow, then that, but that's the principal's job to oversee that, to look at that and figure out whether that, I'm just saying, it'd be great
Do
for
the
you-
principals know that's their job?
Well, I guess that would come down to leadership of,
Because it hadn't been done. I mean,
we were responsible for reviewing our stipend list every year and deciding who got the stipend, and we had to turn in the stipend list to our CFO on our formal recommendation of who got the stipend, and there wasn't a why, but if there was a change, there had to be a why. So for somebody, there's an employee right now that's getting 7 stipends.
yeah, that's crazy.
When they change their job, and you know who I'm talking about, and the money comes, and he's gonna make less with 1 job than he is with 7.
So do we have job descriptions for stipends?
Could I
No,
add
ma'am.
a question?
We don't.
Here's a question. Like the school foundation, the school action, and we spread those grants amongst our administrators, and we did who was overseeing that? Who gave the stipends? And how much did the kids actually get of this thing? And who even knows what the kids got from it? I'm asking you that question real fast. It's real large, but I think you probably should know.
Yes, sir. What you have here with those particular grants there, we did have a grant manager, and don't want to throw anybody under the bus. You had a grant manager. It just question I put towards that grant manager was, can you show me documentation what exactly the administrators are doing this? Because there's nothing wrong with administrators. I did my research, I did my homework. They can receive a stipend, but that stipend has to be for work outside of their normal contract and cannot be a part of their normal duties. Like, say for instance here, if we're rolling out Bluebonnet and the administrator is getting a stipend to roll out Bluebonnet and they put that work in for Bluebonnet after hours, they should keep documentation such as agenda, such as a sign-in sheet, such as the hours worked. So if we're audited, they can prove exactly this is what I receive that particular stipend for, to work outside those contracted hours. There's nothing wrong with them seeing it. So I don't think, looking at it from my research, I know for a fact, I cannot produce that particular documentation right now. We have individuals who's getting it, but it was not, I think it was well intended, but there was really no oversight in those particular stipends that they were receiving, sir.
Well, Madam President?
Yeah, were you done, Greg? Was that your question? Okay, go ahead.
I mean, but some of that could be, for instance, a teacher gives up their conference period because we need an extra math teacher. So they give up their conference period, therefore there's a formula in there, they get X number of dollars for giving up their conference period to teach 8 full periods a day instead of 7. That's for instance, this last year with the middle school, the 3 middle school principals, they lost a principal. Instead of replacing that principal, it was more cost effective to the district for them to divide up, each one of them got a $10,000 stipend, which was a net $30,000 cost to the district, as opposed to a $70,000 assistant principal. That was what they decided to do. Instead of replacing that principal, they agreed to take that on under that grant for a year. Now, it wasn't district money, that was grant money. But there are certain situations. Now, when that grant goes away, that money goes away. And you just go back to,
So on that, was that position replaced?
I know where that position was replaced. What Mr. Buck is talking about, he's talking about the principal internship. That is separate from the School Action Fund grant and the Strong Foundations grant. That's totally a separate particular grant. So those rules don't quite apply the same in that particular
I
grant.
was just giving an example to where you may not have a bunch of written documentation of documenting every after-school hour. And that's, in some of those situations, that work is done during the school day, but it's additional work added on to them they wouldn't normally have had during the school day. That teacher gives up a conference period. Not specific to Greg's question, just there are situations where, as a superintendent, you can't say, give me a sheet of your time clock, showing me the number of hours you spent.
Well, I understand that, but these grants are written with specific rules, and I think we're supposed to follow them. Because what happens if they come and check on us?
They do quarterly checks on the grants.
Well, if they came and they asked for an agenda, those things like there, we're going to struggle a little bit finding those. And I'm being transparent. We're going to struggle a little bit finding exactly how those things are. There's some stuff we're going to be okay with, like for instance here, how we're implementing things in the classroom, how it's benefiting students. Those are some things we're going to be able to have documented. Like Mr. Buck said, they do inspect those particular things. But if they came and asked, did a scrub, okay, this here grant manager is, for instance, getting $5,000 of this particular grant. What do they do outside of hours? Can you document what they do outside of hours for that particular grant? That we would struggle with.
So I think the takeaway with grants is you're gonna look at all of them and you're gonna see which ones are actually being paid the correct amount first. And then we're going to go through everybody to make sure the people who are getting the stipend should actually be getting the stipend.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what's our next steps to start unwinding this?
Well, that's totally a board's decision. You could do like Mr. Buck said, just, hey, I'm coaching 3 sports. I get those 3 stipends. Boom. That's a total valid point because, just looking at it, the coaches, if I'm putting in the work for that 3rd sport, I want 100%. Total valid point. Or you could do a cap 3, or you could say, hey, Mr. Gay, we want everybody to get 7 stipends. That's totally a board decision, ma'am.
So when do we vote on that? I mean, I would think that's something that would have to come to the board for a vote.
Yes, ma'am. Whenever we pass the budget, we'd have to vote on that. That's in what time?
June 19th, our meeting, that is the absolute last day we can pass the budget.
Okay.
I didn't have my thing on. June 19th should be the 3rd Monday. That is the last day that we can pass a budget.
I know,
So-
June what? Say it again?
I'm trying to make sure.
June 19th.
Wait, June 15th, I'm sorry.
June 15th.
June 15th, which will be our normal scheduled 3rd Monday in the month board meeting.
Board meeting.
That's when
Okay.
I plan on taking stipends, payroll, and our final budget. Now, we are looking at doing something very similar. What we're doing right now is having another workshop early June, if you want to do that.
I feel like,
That's
and y'all can let
totally,
me know, I feel like we probably need to revisit stipends and just
And we
visit
can.
stipends before we vote on anything. I don't know how y'all feel about that. There's a lot of us, but I feel like we need a little bit more clarity on the stipends.
Well,
Yeah.
I agree, and I would just like to see the formal recommendations. So if the formal recommendation is for the $10,000 stipend to the LSSPs like that, then the formal recommendation is propose this. If there's a formal recommendation that you're gonna coach that 3rd sport for $1,000, I just think that's something that our people, we need to get that out quicker than later, because that's gonna affect coaches. So
I just have one response to the coaching. I don't necessarily mind having them being paid the full stipend like you suggested. If they do football and then they do basketball and they do baseball, those are sports that flow one into the next. My biggest concern is when we have spring sports and we have a coach who is taking an assistant coaching stipend for soccer, tennis, softball, track. There's no way you can do all those sports. To me, that is just stacking stipends. So it's like, I don't necessarily mind if you're really present in some of those spaces, right, where you are actively coaching that sport. But if you're not doing anything and then at the springtime you're pulling 4 stipends, well, that isn't helping our kids, right? You're taking away a stipend in a space where we could have someone, because I think that's what really bothered me with girls sports, is that we were giving out stipends, and I can guarantee you that one of those coaches was not at one of those track events. But I know we were paying that stipend, right? Because granted, they were fully committed to another sport, which is fine, but that should have just never been an option. We're just not doing our due diligence there.
Okay.
So,
Madam President, that would strictly go back to job descriptions, and that job description, that probably would be part of the athletic director's job, to write up job descriptions. And if you can justify a job description, they gotta be present this time. And it's, the sentence said, you can't be two places at the same time.
Right.
And that job description would strictly delineate where you gotta be at what times.
And I think that go right on with Joe, not only athletics, but, you know, you have those elementary and primary teachers who get $3,000 for the department chair. In the high school, if the principal can't write, or the principals need to write a job description, or somebody needs to write a job description for that stipend. And if one of them is substantially less than the other one, that may justify the 4 to 3 or the, so not only athletics, but I think just a general job description of, if you're getting a stipend, there should be a job description that goes along with what the expectations are. If you're the assistant athletic director, the expectation is you will attend all spring events, all fall events, or, you know, whatever, there should be a job description that goes along with why are you getting, and if you get stacked on, that's a lot of work. Understand, if you got 3 stacked.
So are y'all good with having a meeting before the June 15th meeting to go a little bit deeper into the stipends?
What day?
Okay, I
I
don't know
would
what day yet,
Okay.
but
Okay.
are y'all,
If there's any way if we could like get those formal recommendations out to us, just so there's not a big beating up like we do, which is good, it's been a great conversation, but if you'll say, my formal recommendation is for this stipend, my formal recommendation is to approve the stipend schedule as attached here.
right,
You know, and then if there's specific questions, but at that point, Mr. Daywood has gone through the investigation as a superintendent.
no, I agree, but are y'all good with having a
Yes.
meeting? Are y'all good on this end? Okay, so we'll plan.
Maybe get him all of his questions, he has a whole sheet. It may be-
Yeah, exactly. I want him to be able to go through all of his questions, but I don't think tonight is the night to be able to do that. But if we have a meeting for just stipends, we can dig through all of that,
This
so.
stipend meeting will be easier than the 15th meeting.
Yeah, oh, okay. I'm like, what? Okay, so I think we just need to figure out a date, but please,
Okay.
please, go ahead. Yeah, page 5. Yeah, because we're gonna have a meeting in June, yes, okay.
Okay, so these are the budget amounts. I can give you cost category breakdowns. I can cycle through these. If you have questions, I can answer them. This is what we're kind of settling into. Sorry.
I'm assuming IT was because we cut a position.
Instructional technology.
Yes.
It's been repurposed. It's a
They're minus 43 and everybody else is minus 3.
Yeah, that's going to cover the instructional stuff that was coded there, but the rest of that was going to be travel supplies directly to that one. CTE's up. That's going to be IPC costs. I've been working with Crystal on trying to cover it for the 2nd year in a row. And so, transportation, I'm probably going to hold it at about the same. Diesel. I mean, don't know. You know, just, yeah, it's, yeah. So it is diesel. That's pretty much, it's not overfunded, but, you know, there's transportation does have a healthy budget because, you know, there's variables. Sometimes you don't know what's going on. So we're keeping it like that. Same thing with the SPED budget. We're looking at, this number changes a lot if we don't do pay scale stipend stuff. So whatever decision we end up making, then that'll give me time to adjust it from there.
I have one question. The police department down 3%.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not cutting anything that's going to put our safety
We-
or anything like that in
No.
jeopardy.
I closed, not closed, but purchasing closed down spring break. And the 3% was within the margin of pretty much whatever budget everybody had in their budget left over, if not more. So I wouldn't cut something as crucial as the police department if I didn't feel comfortable in that amount going down. Yeah. I didn't mean that to sound like I would do that, but these are all, and I say that these are within the margin of where some of these are falling anyway once purchasing closed down, and it's not fluff, but it is, if there's not something crucial that they need to buy, then that's within the range of where their budget has already closed, if not sitting a little bit more right now, if I were to look. So
Especially when you stack it right next to what we spend on school student safety as opposed to the next line item.
I know, right?
Is with doing that, because that was money that they didn't spend, are we not building a system of end of year hurry up and spend?
so one
Because
of the
I mean, when I see something like the police department, or I guess that's curriculum and instruction,
Mhm.
two things that are extremely important for our schools, and we cut them, and then we say it's based because at the end of this year they didn't spend that money. To me, next year they're going to go, I'm going to spend it,
so
even if they didn't need to.
it wasn't cut based on what was left over. This was just a general 3%. We're down students. The 3% was across categories that, or departments that, like the campus budgets, those are based on the students at the campus. So the 3% didn't apply to them. And so these are, the 3% was my way of trying to, in an area in which utilities is going up, insurance is going up, other cost categories are going up, I'm applying just a general decrease in some of these to try to offset within our what I call core supply budget, is all these departments is trying to make up for that offset and big cost driving things. As far as the police department, one of the big things that there's a concept called burn your budget, to where if you have $100, the evil finance guy is going to see that you only spent 75 and take 25 from you.
Right.
I have constantly communicated every single purchasing email I send out. It is not burn your budget, it is spend effectively, because it's these budgets are. I want people to spend things that improve their campus and department, and it's not a burn your budget thing. I try to not instill that in our people, and so if the police department ends up with extra money, I'm not going to reduce that amount by how much they had left over, because I understand that there are some times where I've got about this year, I wasn't anticipating that. Like, it doesn't, if let's say this police department budget had $5,000 left over, I wouldn't go through there and be like, all right, there's $5 I can take out. I understand that there's still some give and take in what they may need in that particular year. So in a year in which we're down on enrollment, we're down ADA, trying to just find money to where I can pass a balanced budget, I had to do something to try to reduce our core expenditure budgets. So I try not to take the burn your budget. If you have left over, it's gone. I take it away. But at the end of the day, we still had some cost categories that were very expensive, and I tried to pass a balanced budget while trying to.
You met with all of them in February and
Yes.
discussed all this,
Yes.
right? I know Ms. Buck said y'all met and she knew what cuts were coming.
Yeah.
In February, March.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with that, what looks like 3% was pretty much the average for, across that board. On your next one, the 23, 25% increases with those two.
So that was an interfund. So in our finance budget, I moved money from finance to their budget.
Okay, but what was the purpose of
With PEAMS, our PEAMS coordinator, she's new, so this is more training opportunities for her to take, whether it's through TASBO or through Skyward. That increases so she can get more training. The coordinator level, which flows down to our campus PEAMS people.
And
So that is just to help her with more training opportunities.
completely okay with that? What about the
Assistant soup.
superintendent or the assistant?
We ran into an issue to where she was trying to do some PD, bring people in, and there was just simply, by the time you take in one or two trips, I mean, it's not like we're going to, like, there's a TASA trip involved in there. It's just, this was the first year that we built a assistant superintendent budget last year when we broke out all these categories. And so
So
the
why-
$30,000 allocated, it simply wasn't enough to fund some sort of conference trip and offer some sort of assistant soup style. I'm going to bring people together, offer instructional this, we're going to do this, the PD style that she is trying to implement into
And
next
what
year.
was the need to move it from finance itself? Like that, obviously that was very specifically noted that this extra money came from finance. Why finance?
Because there was a little bit bigger allocation in the actual finance department. There's some years where we pay for district memberships, different things like that. So you have this certain core amount that we keep in finance just in case something pops up. Like we pay for everybody's Sam's membership. We pay for our Amazon District membership. If there's a new Quadient mailing machine, we pay for that. So there is not what I would consider fluff like everybody's office is decked out, but there is fluff in there to handle district-wide expenditures. So in a year in which we have down student enrollment, down ADA, I'm moving some of that out of our budget because I know what our core expenditures are this year into some of those other budgets instead of taking away from the Function 11 or from the campuses. So I'm simply just saying, hey, I can spare, $1,500 from finance into there to bump them.
As opposed to just paying that out of finance in making it more transparent as to what that money's going to.
I could just roll it into my budget. But one of the big things we're trying to do is get an idea of what these costs are. What does this department normally spend? And so the only way we can do that is by setting amounts and then kind of tweaking and going from there. Because if you end up with just one big finance budget that covers the entire administration building, then we don't have good data. We don't know what's a normal cost for this certain department. So by adding to them and pulling from us, we're trying to just give better data so that way next year we can project what we're looking for. Okay, this PD was successful because we gave an extra $1,000 to our assistant soup. So
yeah, that's all I was really getting at on that point was just because there has been in the past question of spending and where certain things are going or why is this department doing that when it still needed to be done, but why did it have to come from there? It does make more sense to be more transparent, to move that initially and say, they need this money. We know that they're going to need this money. Why not just say it's their money?
Yeah.
Rather than saying, oh, we're going to keep it over here in case we need it for this.
Yeah, and that's what I'm ultimately trying to do is get better data, and by not just having it in one big pot, but having it broke out to where we can actually track it and make sense of it and properly project it for the next year too.
And I appreciate it.
Yes.
I have a silly question. It is actually silly because it's so minor, but it's close to my heart right now. How are you saving 3% on elections? It's like few $100, and I was going, what are they going to do different next year? It's going to be cheaper than this year.
There's some of these. There's probably 30 or 40. 50 categories that I'm trying to. So sometimes it's just running it down. And if the number's pretty close, like the elections, they may be like, I don't know at the time how much elections are going to be when I'm setting some of these amounts. Like I just now today got with Rosie and we found out what we had, what the city charged us is right at what we allocated for this year. So I'm going to go back and revisit that, but that's just because I just got data for today. So sometimes when you have like elections, like it's hard to project what it's going to cost because Rosie's like, well, if I work more, then it costs. I mean, so there's just sometimes there's some campuses and departments at a campus, not so, but in a department or something like elections, it's hard to project what that cost is going to be for next year.
I understand. Kind of a random guess again.
No, it is because there is just sometimes where, you have stuff like elections, but then you have stuff like post-district. That's a big amount where you may put a lot of thought and effort into post-district, but you still don't know what it's going to be other than it's going to be flights, hotels, and meals and conference registration.
No,
so
I really do understand. I mean, it is a guess. I mean,
it's a guess, and so.
And I understand that, and I understand why. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next year, we're going to go back to, it's always going to be C-scope to me, TRS. Did that budget fall into, where did that budget fall into? Or is that? TRS, that used to be C-scope is the curriculum?
Yes, sir. That's on the curriculum.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
But our new scope and sequence.
Oh, okay.
Year at a glance.
Okay.
TICS resource system.
Gotcha. Where's it coming from? The TEEKS?
No, it's TICS resource system is the name of the curriculum. It'll come out of CNI, so I didn't.
I'm pretty sure it's on our ESC, part of our ESC contract, I think.
It actually is. It's part of it charges less. It charges
Yeah.
$18,000.
Okay, yeah. No, it's part of our region contract. Insurance, I've covered that. We are doing okay on insurance because that was about our 24-25 rate. So to have 1 year go by. Substitutes, we talked about that going up. Legal services, it's the same thing with the 3%. Sometimes we hit it really heavy 1 year, sometimes we're not. So it's just within that area. District utilities are going up. Same thing with the energy infrastructure.
Back to copy paper.
Mhm.
I know this is gonna sound crazy, but someone contacted me, people contact us, but somebody had contacted me about copy paper and being told that they had to buy their own copy paper because there wasn't enough copy paper. Do we feel pretty comfortable about that amount?
I buy them 5 pallets at a time, and the only time that I could see something like that happening is if I order it and the pallets haven't got here yet and we're getting low. But I mean, I've probably ordered 15 pallets this year, and so the only time that ever happens is if I've ordered it and then I'm getting in contact with the customer service, like, where's yeah. And so, it's not like there's long stretches. It would just be, yeah. So, yeah.
I'm assuming did we decide to stay with Falk? I know last time we talked at the board meeting, we were talking about you were going to talk to all the principals.
I did talk to them. They did have positive reviews, and it will be up for approval at the.
I just saw Falk was on here, so I didn't.
That was the category core. That was just how we had it labeled in there. So we haven't made our final decision yet, but we'll be bringing it in May.
Have we given any thought to records management? I know that sounds stupid, but right now they're being held at 3rd Street, and hopefully, in my heart of hearts, we're going to do something with 3rd Street in the near future. So I know 3 of the classrooms, at least 2, maybe 3 of the classrooms are used for record retention right now. So have we given any thought to where records retention is going to go if we reutilize 3rd Street? That may affect that budget. Maybe not in this upcoming budget year, but just or it may. I don't know if I'm hoping there's somewhere there's plans for the use of 3rd Street.
Haven't given any thought where record retentions would go, because that part of the building would require extensive work. But I will say this here, there is a part of the 3rd Street that could be utilized. Right now, they're just used to where Mr. Webb stores gear. That wouldn't impact the storage rooms. As you go down that hallway, right before you get to the restroom, those could be utilized. The storage room for the records is actually in the other side by the gym, sir.
If we did digital, do we have to keep paper? I know then you're looking at buying getting software or whatever.
You do get down to having to scan and properly process every single document. So
Right.
that
know it would be expensive in the beginning to get somebody, and then probably whatever you go with and buy, they would scan it for you. But anyway, I was just curious if we've ever.
That would be something.
It would cost a lot.
I would want to research it.
Yeah.
Just to,
Okay.
Say it again. Oh no, no. I mean no.
Not coming up, but maybe in the future.
Yeah. Okay. And just hitting back on our replacement plan going into next year, $60,000 for a bus. We've got 106 on a grant, so that's kind of where we're going for. We're looking at a laptop split for staff and students of $90,000, and ID machines. So we're looking about $153,000 for our replacement plan going into next year. We had more on the bus, and we had a $50,000 phone system. I think that was it. So it was about 100. It was almost 300,000 last year.
I mean, this is the same slide as our
Last workshop, yes. So, I thought you said I thought you said last year. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. No, this is the same one. Mm-hmm. And then that's it. If there's any questions,
Another great presentation. Thank you.
I'll take them if you got them, because I do want to. No,
Again, Again, this is the best one what you've done is the best of what we've ever had.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do want to stress, I want to get this stuff tackled. I want to make sure y'all are happy. We're happy doing our stuff too. It's really important to me that we get this. So if there's anything, questions, whatever, throw them out.
I think we just need to figure out a date,
Mhm.
for our next get-together.
Okay.
We can do that. Okay.
I'll coordinate with Rosie and kind of run the day's postings and stuff like that, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go to item number 7, executive session at 8:29 p.m. for 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, and 551.0821. From executive session at 9:08 p.m. And we'll go to item 9, adjourn at 9:08 p.m.